Father, as always, we honor you and just say thank you for all the many blessings that you've bestowed upon Ascension Parish. Father, you know the crisis situation in Louisiana at this time and the decisions that Ascension Parish must face. We ask that you give us the courage and the wisdom to do the things that are proper for Ascension Parish and the residents that live here. As always, we ask you many blessings and home safe for our troops that are abroad and for the end of the war on terrorists quickly. We just thank you right now that you provide all the funds that we need to provide this parish with the services they so seek. I ask you tonight to remember all the prayers that I've been told are going up for my husband tomorrow. And I just thank you that you'll answer them. And we thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, let it be known that Thompson and Mr. Dempsey Lambert called me. He's down with the flu, so he's in bed. We'll move on to number 3, public comment section. Anyone want to speak on an agenda item, please sign in, sign-up sheet on the back, right by the back door. And when that agenda item comes up, we'll let you speak on it. Number 4 is acceptance of minutes of January 9th, 2006.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Got a motion by Mr. Seymour, seconded by Mr. Shake Snyder. Any questions? Any objections? So moved. Number 5, Parish President's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As all of us realize, we've been talking about this drainage plan now for the last few months and various parts of it. And I sent all of you a letter a while back saying the administration as the manager of the drainage board has been researching this matter and talking to some of the original members of the drainage task force that evolved in the city of Gonzales in 1980 to include police jury. And by 82 and 83 it was evolved into a plan that was called Prescott Follett, and then was turned over to the parish, not just the city. And there were 7 members of that original drainage task force, and 3 of them are still with us. And one of them here tonight, Mr. Mitch Epps, who was a retired plant manager and a mechanical engineer. And he met with me a while back and reviewed some of their intentions, what they talked about back then, putting all this together for us to try to get up to date 20, 25 years later on what this plan needs to be about. And so you may recall one of the suggestions in that plan, the recommendations, was that the drainage board be made up of people in the community and not just the police jury at that time. And civic leaders, engineers, and so forth. You see a debate on this issue now with levies and having the people serving on levy boards. And so I thought it would be good for Mr. Mitch to come and just talk to us a little bit about some of the discussions they had back then. We'll bring in somebody else next month. Try to get a handle on some of this. So, Mr. Epps, would you come and finish my report, please, sir?
Mr. Epps was on the agenda a little later, but I'm going to let him go ahead and, Mr. Epps, you can finish your presentation now.
Thank you. Thank you, Ronnie. I'll try to pick up where you left off and maybe give a little bit of background leading to a recommendation I'd like to make to you. This drainage task force was formed back in April 1980 by the city of Gonzales, where it started. The members consisted of Nelson Bro at that time, the mayor of Gonzales, Marvin Bro, which was the police juryman for the Gonzales area, Dr. James Bryant, Willard Quintmore, L.P. Burke, John Earls, and myself. And the actions of this group led to leading to a contract with Prescott and Follett, who ultimately expanded their studies to include all the East Ascension Parish. The task force was composed of civic citizens, elected officials who worked together as a team, and they did work together as a team, I can assure you. And they were very successful. Each member was able to make contribution in his field of expertise, such as engineering, land surveying, land and right-of-way acquisitions, management, and from the input of an extremely proficient and intelligent consulting engineer, which Mr. Prescott Follett was. From Mr. Follett's study and report in May 18, 1982, I'd like to quote one paragraph from his report, which is the substance of what I want to do tonight in making a recommendation. I'll quote now, we strongly recommend the creation of a separate drainage board composed of civic leaders and some members of the East Bank Police Jury to oversee the construction and future operation and maintenance of the entire drainage system of East Ascension Parish. That's a quotation quote, of course, what the report said. Unfortunately, this board, although successful, did not stay intact because of disagreements that developed within the existing police jury at that time. Sadly, the proposed drainage work did not proceed on schedule or to completion as planned. Based on the half-cent sales tax that went into effect in January the 1st, 1983, all pump stations were scheduled to be completed by 1987. These pump stations were to be given first priority, followed by dredging of the bayous and other levee work. It is now 2006, or 18 years later, and the Henderson Bayou pump station has still not been built, and yet the monies derived from the half-inch sales tax have been spent. Further, and this is also important, all the dredging work was scheduled to be completed in approximately 18 years using only 2 machines. And I'm sure the department has more than 2 machines. This period has long passed, and there's still much dredging work to be done, particularly in the upper reaches of all the major drainage bayous and their tributaries. This important work is necessary to let the storm waters quickly get to the pump stations and minimize upstream flooding. I strongly recommend the consideration be given to adding volunteer civic leaders to our present East Ascension Drainage Board to provide the same type of expertise that existed with the original Drainage Task Force. These volunteers will not necessarily be voting members, but only act as advisory capacity and provide some check and balances. The concept did work well then, and it will help in making decisions that are in the best interest of the entire East Bank and keep priority work and spend the monies where the needs are the greatest and benefit the most people who have flooded or are in danger of being flooded. We must constantly look at the big picture all the time as we look at the individual approvals, keep the eye on the big picture, and manage our floodplain. I'd like to thank you for permitting me to make my remarks and recommendations to you this evening. And as the concerned citizen of this parish, a citizen that's very interested in this parish, I would like to request that my comments be made a part of the public record of this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Any of you have any comments for Mitch?
I'm glad to answer any questions that I'm able to.
The last thing I have, Mr. Chairman, is I don't remember if this went to all over a brief report from URS on looking at the tax issue and the way the plan was presented to the voters back in, I think, 83, the Prescott Follett plan, what that proposition actually means, how tightly tied into the exact projects in that plan was. So if you haven't seen that by URS, please get with us so you can see their comments pertaining to this whole issue. thank you, that's my report, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions?
Yeah.
Mr. Byron?
Mr. President, is that going to be a recommendation from administration, possibly get some community
I
participation?
think we all need to sit down and talk about it, Jared, and have a good discussion on it. I think there's certainly some positive merit to it. We can get some qualified, and we all see what's happening with this levy situation now, the special session that starts tonight at the State House. We certainly need to do that. We need some, I think, it would help save us maybe some consulting dollars with having some engineers serving that can give us some advice. I'm not an expert in drainage and hydrology, and I don't think any of us are. So meeting with Ditch and talking a little bit with another member who was involved way back then, there were some issues within the police jury itself that kind of caused us to fall apart. So I think it's something that definitely has merit, and we need to check into it and really look at it. Hurricane season will be here, it came within 4 months or so, and so obviously it's going to take a long time to finish this. We went and rode the Law Ridge levee last week, our staff did, and looking at that whole thing. And so there's a lot of issues here that we have to deal with, and URS is going to, a little later on tonight, is going to make a report on some of their findings. I definitely think we need to look at it.
Yeah, I personally think it's a pretty good idea. For years and years, like Ms. Depp said, we've already spent enough money to do all the projects listed in the full Scott plan. We've been robbing and pillaging this particular fund for a long time, and unless we get a watchdog, the past couple administrations did it, the police jury before, we still doing it, and if we don't get public watchdogs or input, we'll never quit doing it. So I think it's a wonderful idea. I mean, the drainage board drainage department has belonged into many, many things. We spend money out of the major drainage on all kinds of things that's not necessary. With the public involved, I think it'd be wonderful. We could really get some projects done.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Epps, thank you for that report tonight. I first raised this issue at the December 5th Drainage Board meeting, and in fact, that was one of my slides that originally, per the plan, we called for both police jury members and civic leaders from the community to be a part of the board. But it never got implemented, and I think it's a good step direction that we need to go in. And I think that certainly will help this board maybe take some of the politics out of some of the decisions being made.
Yeah. And if we do take that step, in my opinion, we need to totally separate it from parish government, so there wouldn't be this crossover effect, and always having this pot of money over here. Well, we got enough money here, we can kind of dip into it. So if we totally separate and have the public input, I think we really do well with it.
I agree with Mr. Barrett that it's a good thing on strategic planning. We take non-voting members and information from the Planning and Zoning Commission. They're on the front lines, and it really helps us in making good decisions. And I think these people would help us in any way, shape, or form. Anytime you have experts in the field, helps us. And I also agree that we need to take a look at some our large projects and get those done and move forward. Let's name the next project. Let's target it and move forward with it and move on. We need to do this and stop doing smaller things.
We're also doing that with the recreation too. We're abolished a governing board, and they're coming on board with the committee, subcommittee, and they're going to give some input to move things along. Same thing. This is fun, though.
Well, I just wanted to say that it should be obvious to this community that this council that sits on the drainage board here has been moving forward and working toward moving forward with the drainage plan of the past. We have already recognized the fact that money was misspent or whatever, and we are taking the leadership as this group to move this forward. And Mr. Epps, I thought that was a very good idea. Would you like to to serve. We would.
I didn't stand up there to volunteer, but I will.
We surely enjoyed your coming and giving us the insight, and you seem to be so knowledgeable in what took place in the past that we would really, appreciate your input.
Well, it's a shame we haven't completed something we started this many years ago. It is an excellent plan. There's nothing changed but the volume of water you put into the pump stations. Because as you time that plan was made, it was designed based on a 5-year storm because this parish was predominantly rural. Now then, as it builds up, the rate of runoff in developed areas is about 5 times as great if you had rainfall falling on clear land. So all that water that's running off of roofs and streets and driveways have got to get out in the canal to get to the pump station. So it's just like your infrastructure for roads. When you enlarge your population, you got to have more roads. When you build more houses, you got to have more means to take care of the water runoff, pumps and canals to do it.
I thank you, Mr. Johnson. I really think that this board is committed to making drainage, a top priority in Ascension Parish once again, and moving forward with what we did in the past. We've already taken those steps. Thank you.
Yeah, and I may have missed it, Mitch. You may have mentioned it, but I know Dempsey was here tonight. Of course, it's Todd's district too, but Henderson Bayou definitely needs some pumps finished over there or installed. Of course, in Mr. Valentine's district, over at Alligator Bayou, he needs those pumps as well. And that was in the original plan.
Unfortunately, the Henderson Bayou had some gates put in recent years. They weren't even put in the place it was supposed to be put in.
Right.
Well,
and I did speak with a previous councilman about that issue. It's not always easy to secure property where you want to do something. Sometimes it's where they allow you to give up the property to install the floodgate. But I know we do definitely need to move forward with those pumps and whatever we need to do with the existing floodgate. If it's start over or try to go in and make repairs, whatever needs to be done. I know Dempsey's sixth night, or he'd be here. I know he'd be jumping up and down about Henderson Bayou because he's got a lot of people affected by it, as well as Chairman Todd Lappin. So.
And I think we're a few months back moved our directions to this. We were focused one way, and we knew we kind of left this east side a little bit alone, and now we're focusing the money and the projects that way, and that's one of them is the Henderson Bayou, Muddy Creek, and the Low Ridge Levee. They all tie in together. So we are directing it to that project, so I think we are moving in the right way. Mr. Shakespeare.
I just want to make sure, remind people that it just keep being brought up that we've gone so many years without completing projects and things of that sort, and it's kind of, it's something that we need to move forward on. We certainly do, but we have to remember that some mistakes were made that cost years and years and hundreds of thousands of dollars because of things like not getting proper permits for the Corps of Engineers. But this parish is still going through problems because of that. And in the want to do things quickly, mistakes were made that the parish is still paying for. So we need to make sure that we follow proper procedure, which we've been doing, and we're getting in good graces with the Corps now. And I think we have our procedures in place to move forward. There's also a number of times where those hard decisions were not made because it came back to individuals as a police jury, and now we're in a council situation that I think these members are willing to make. So I think we have things in line to move forward, and we're ready to do that.
Any more questions? I think we need to all think about this hard and maybe come up with a decision which way we want to move with it, bring it to a vote at maybe the next meeting, and go from there.
Okay. One thing, Mr. Chairman, I forgot to mention, we did get an opinion number from the Attorney General's office. As I have been researching and studying this 25 years of history, one of the questions that was, as I met with people who had been in parish government for quite a while, said the question that they didn't think it had ever been asked this way was that are the two drainage districts under the state or under the parish charter? And so I've asked both the Attorney General and the DA to give us that opinion, because that would help us structurally, going back to some of Jared's comments about this matter, because our charter talks about special districts such as drainage, because these districts have been created prior to then. Even though we had 5 districts when we went to the charter, it's unclear if the drainage was intended to be part of the parish charter form of government. So I just think this matter's got to be resolved, and therefore I ask both these entities to give us their opinion. And that would help us in this whole discussion on what we need to do with drainage going forward. But obviously, what has happened around this in the last few months, the importance of this cannot be overemphasized. And we saw some parts in our Laurel Ridge levee this week, last week as we drove that levee, where there's been some erosion and things, and that thing's been there for decades and decades. So it's an issue that has to be addressed as quickly as we can, but obviously can correctly as well. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
More questions? We'll move on to number 6, submission of a grant for raising Muddy Creek Bridge. Mr. Hilleback. Doug, I think this was brought to Road and Bridge, so shouldn't it be brought up on the transportation?
Yeah, well, we're going to bring it up there too. This board last year voted to redirect the efforts to do a floodgate at the time, and then in FEMA's mind, they think we're down here doing a floodgate in lieu of raising the bridge at Muddy Creek. So all I'm asking for tonight is just a vote of this drainage board in support of a resolution to move that grant process forward. If you think back, a lot's been said about it. I don't think we need to, bring it all up and rehash it. But what I want to do is I want to resubmit the grant, FEMA grant. There is money available. We want to go ahead and resubmit the grant to FEMA. I want to use Mr. Paul Keller. And I guess we use the engineering firm that did the preliminary studies on it. And let's move this grant process forward so that we go ahead and back off on the idea of doing a floodgate. And all I want is just a resolution to go with the grant application to raise the Muddy Creek Bridge. That being said, I make that motion.
I'll second that.
I got a motion by Mr. Hillsback, second by Mr. McConnell. Question, Mr. Byron?
Grant application from the drainage board or from the Rose Ridge?
Resolution. The resolution is from the drainage board, Councilman Byron. The resolution says in FEMA's mind,
The grant application will be made from one entity.
exactly. Go back to what I said. In FEMA's mind, I don't want there to be any misunderstanding where the drainage board stands as well. This drainage board last year voted to do a floodgate. So the people up there that approve the money, appropriate the money, and approve the grants, in their mind, we're still doing a floodgate. So with this grant application, I want a resolution from this board in support.
Sent to the full council for their support, right? Because it's coming out of Road and Bridge, so we have to go to finance.
I think, Mr. Chairman, if I may, I think because Mr. Hillenbeck called me from my support earlier, what he's trying to say is the original application for the grant came from the drainage board. It has since been transferred to Road and Bridge, so FEMA's thinking they're not going to do that anymore. Essentially, I think what the resolution ought to say is we're not going to do it as a drainage project, but we would still like to see it go forward, but from Road and Bridge, which is a separate animal. I think it's just a resolution supporting or in support of that application for the grant from Road and Bridge.
Yeah, the resolution should come from Road and Bridge.
Right.
Saying that the parish is in agreement. It sure would be nice to be looking at a resolution
In front of the court.
instead of always rambling.
We'll do a resolution for the moment. That's what you want.
And let me make sure I understand, Mr. Chairman. Now, we're talking about, Doug, the quote-unquote $5.2 million being talked about coming to Ascension for hazardous mitigation. Do the $250 million of appropriations or just a competitive grant application for FEMA money that is available for flood relief, generally speaking?
Just a regular grant application, just like we submitted last year.
All right, thank you, guys.
Second.
Doug, would it be more appropriate if the resolution stated resolution from the Central Parish East Central Drainage Board in opposition of the application grant to apply for the.
Oh, that's what I said.
Well, really, what's the difference? I mean, you either, I would feel better about the grant application with the resolution of support.
It'd sure be nice to have a resolution. We wouldn't be worried about that.
I don't think any of us draft the resolutions. We always let the staff do that. They can handle it, but they'll get worried about it.
I'm not voting on something that we worry about somebody
Like I say, this
I want to understand the letter of understanding here.
All right,
Mr. Shakespeare.
let me just say, we'll put something together. We'll bring it to finance next week. Is that okay? Is that
fine. I doubt we'll get the grant application out before finance.
No,
But we need to move this process forward.
we'll make a note there, Mr. Buttersley, that we'll get, Mr. Paterno, can you help us out here?
Okay.
We've already started the process.
Oh, okay.
Mike and I might be working with FEMA on who's going to do it, how we're going to do it. That process is already underway. Mike?
We just want to caution that in the regular grant process, or what they call HMP process, the state only selects 5 applications throughout the entire state that they're going to decide to go forward with. Those 5 from each state compete nationwide for only a small pot of money. The new HMP funds, which is in the millions of dollars, 250, if Ronnie mentioned earlier, plus it's going to grow, would be a larger pot, and it's not on a competitive process with all the other states. So we need to give a little consideration. You go both ways, but one maybe a little bit better chance where you're not having to compete with all this other project. It's a very good project, but you have to compete nationwide.
Okay, we still have a motion on the floor by Mr. Hillsback. Mr. Shakespeare.
Well, I would like to see it, as from the drainage board, as Mr. Salmore said, have no objection from the drainage board, the resolution coming from Road and Bridge to build, raise the bridge in that area, and I think that would be appropriate because it's coming from the entity that wishes to fund that, and then it's also stated that there's no objection from this board, which is, been asked to fund it before. And I think that's the proper method to go, and then it can go to Road and Bridge.
Okay.
We'll cover ourselves properly and do things right.
The motion on the floor states, y'all want to move with it, with the resolution from the drainage board, correct? Okay, got a motion by Mr. Hillsback, second by Mr. McConnell. Any objections?
Yeah. I object to that one.
Let me get a roll call, Mr. Martin.
Councilman Sheffield?
No.
Councilman
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
No, ma'am.
Okay, motion's failed.
I'd like to offer a substitute motion, a new motion, I'm sorry, that from the drainage board, we offer a letter of no objection to moving this resolution to Road and Bridge to raise the bridge over Muddy Creek and apply for grant funding through Road and Bridge.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Shakespeare, second by Mr. Valentine. Any questions?
Let me ask one question. Bill and Mike, can you actually apply to both of those sources at the same time for that same grant?
No, you can't.
So you got to choose one or the other.
We need to apply to the one that gives us the best
Thank you.
possibility.
We got a motion and a second. Any objections? Got the right motion. So moved. We're going to move on to number 7, rental of equipment for drainage projects. Mr. Bill Rue.
As directed by the Drainage Board, the Drainage Department is moving forward with the construction of the reconstruction of some of our major drainage canals by in-house personnel. And we looked at the deal of renting versus buying a piece of equipment. And originally we thought we would go ahead and just rent the equipment, especially a long reach track code that's necessary for this type of work. And in fact, as of late this afternoon, actually, DPW crunched the numbers again, and because of the term of the contract, of the necessity of having this piece of equipment, we now are asking the board for amendment to the to our budget, a budget amendment to add $200,000 to acquisition so we can actually buy a long-range track code versus renting. Again, if the numbers prove this afternoon, that would be the best deal for the parish, and that's what we're before you tonight to ask for that approval. Mr. Byron.
Yeah, one question, Mr. Root. And if we had a lease agreement, would it cover any of the maintenance?
It would cover some of the maintenance, but when you look at over the term of about 3 or 4 years, and the difference in cost of buying compared to leasing, we still would be, and the fact that at the end of that term we can sell that piece of equipment if necessary and get at least 25% of our investment back. We add it all together, even with maintenance, because 4 years is not that's the first 4 years of a piece of equipment like that. You have very little maintenance costs, a lot of it still under warranty. And that's why we determined that the best route is to buy it, because we can sell it at the end of that 4 years and get a new equipment and use that money on the new piece of equipment.
Mr. Shakespeare.
I move to buy the equipment requested.
Have a motion by Mr. Shakespeare to purchase the equipment for the drainage extensions.
Second discussion.
Mr. Elizabeth, question.
Bill, on the equipment, is this one piece of equipment we're buying?
Right now,
earlier we were talking about leasing 2 long-range tractors.
Right now, we are looking at buying only one, because what we want to do is get started on one bayou. Because, and I'm going to talk about it later on in on the agenda under old business, but I can talk about it right now. We had once said that NRCS said that they had money to be able to do some drainage projects, and we wanted to do Bayou Conway, Bayou Panama, Bayou North Seas, Frog Bayou, and a couple more projects. They came back and said that we really didn't qualify as emergency funds, and didn't look like we were going to get it. We had then we had a letter from them just about a week or 2 ago saying that if they changed their policy and for 25% matching funds, that it's a chance, a very good chance, that we can qualify now. And if that happens, well, what part of our project is actually put them doing some of our bayous, and while we're doing a couple of the main bayous, which is Black Bayou and Boudin and all up through that area. So for that reason, that's why we're going back to just one, to test the waters, if you will, to see how it's going, how we're performing. And then if we see where we can utilize, without manpower, utilize another equipment, piece of long reach equipment like that, then we'll purchase another one. But we have normal backhoes, track hoes that we're going to utilize. This is only for the wide areas that we can't reach with our equipment.
Okay, because that's the question I had, because I see where you've got 4 bayous listed, jobs are needed for, and like Black Bayou is the first one, and you got 1 year, I'm assuming that's 1 year in duration.
Right, well, this is what our drainage manager kind of put this together for me. He wasn't aware of NRCS coming in and doing a number of the bayous, and we have the option of what bayous they're going to be on. Right. We're trying to work that out right now.
Is that the priority of listing?
Not necessarily, no. But Black Bayou is where we're going to begin immediately.
Because just so the people know that we're going to start Black Bayou Road, and we're going to do them all the way around the place.
We're going to go all the way up.
That's going to help my area, and it's going to help Councilman Byers.
That's right. And along with the long reach, we'll probably have at least one other piece of equipment, trico with that as we're going. And then on the Boudin and other areas, we're going to have our own trico, normal size trico that we own already, doing some work along those. And hopefully NRCS will be taking care of these other bodies. So we're all
see,
working at one
I
time.
see the four listed are Black Bayou, Bayou Narcisse, Calabas, and Bayou Boudin. I'm glad we added Black Bayou Boudin. And I know it wasn't previously listed.
The priority, if you would take the priority that I have right now, Black Bayou and Boudin are the two primary ones. And with NRCS doing Conway, Panama, Bayou Narcisse, and Frost Bayou, then we're looking around, doing a lot of work all around the parish and all our major bayous that has not been worked on ever or in a long time. So.
Any more questions?
Bill, you're talking about buying one piece of equipment, which is a long reach tracker. What about the off-road dump truck?
We have that already. What we did, we're not purchasing a couple other pieces of equipment, and in lieu of a dump truck, really, and in lieu of that, we're going to use that money to purchase. In fact, we already have it coming. We're already in the process of buying it, which is the off-road hauling vehicle, so we don't have to clear as much land. We don't have to spread the spoil bank. We can actually just haul the dirt out, and that way we don't have as much of a problem with right-of-way or permitting or any other problems that go along with trying to get onto the side of the bayou and without taking a lot of land to go along these bayous. No, but that's in the process. We're working it through. I've already budgeted that process that we have. We have enough money to buy that.
Now, the only thing that throws the flag up is now we're still at least 60 weeks from starting to dig. Because we're going to buy it. Now we got to go through the purchasing process and the advertising and all that kind of stuff.
No, if we go with state contract, that's what we're hoping to do with this state contract. State contract, we don't have to go through all that process.
Good.
So that eliminates that difficulty.
So the state contract, $200,000 for the piece of equipment good. Do we have any idea of how long it takes to come in on state contract?
They may have it. Did you talk to anybody, Alan, about the time on this?
No, I haven't.
Okay, but usually it's not something that you have to wait that long on. A lot of them have that.
They can find them around the country, they bring them.
Right.
All right. So we're saying then,
But if I guess
the equipment that we recently sold didn't bring us in $290,000 auction. It just is the original value. How much did it bring us in?
well, I don't know. I think Eddie has the figures on that. I don't have the figures on what.
I remember seeing the report. You remember Terry? I think you looked at it.
Yeah, I looked at it, but I don't remember what
Yeah.
it was.
But you're saying then, you want us to amend the budget of drainage, major drainage, but I think in reality, Bill, if we take the proceeds from the auction,
That's already figured into our budget. What we do is we take the 6 items we're going to buy and how much that's going to cost, and that's what goes into our budget. And if we go above that amount, now we can swap certain things. We'll swap out 2 dump trucks for one of these.
so my point is, we can take the proceeds from the auction of these 5 pieces of equipment, 6, and apply it to the purchase of the dump truck, right? I mean,
No, you can't. Because that goes into the general account, and we still have to amend the budget to pull it from that account into the acquisition category.
I understand all the variety.
I mean, no, and from the,
But we can actually take the money and amend the budget,
But that's-
6 pieces of equipment, and use it to purchase the other pieces.
the bottom line is we need a budget amendment to pull money from our general account, which is like a savings account, to pull money in that and put it into the category acquisitions. We can do a line item adjustment, but we can't pull money
I
into it.
understand. So we
And
put
we
this
just-
money when we sold
it's
this
there.
equipment
Oh,
into
yeah.
that general account.
Into the general
Pull it
account.
back down the budget.
We just get budget amendment to pull $200,000 into our
Thank you,
account.
Chair. Sure.
Any more questions? We got a motion by Mr. Shakespeare, a second by Mr. Hillensbeck to buy purchase the equipment. Any questions, any objections? So moved.
And now that's one thing that was brought up. What we're going to do, just to set everything, eat everyone at ease, if in fact we find it's going to be 6 to 8 weeks or whatever like this, we're going to go ahead and rent our equipment for a month or whatever to get the project going while we wait for the equipment to come in, because that's not that big of a cost. So we will, start the project moving if we see it's going to be that kind of time involved. We have the money in our budget to do that.
Now, Bill, do we have any other obstacles in our way for this board action start digging as soon as we get the piece of equipment. You don't have to come back to us for no more.
And the reason we're doing it the way we are, because maintenance, number one, and it's not construction, so we're able to go in there under the law. Also, we are using this articulating off-track, off-road vehicle to haul the dirt out, so we can work within our present right-of-way. We're not going to make the bayous, Black Bayou, significantly bigger than what it is. We're shaping it and making it more efficient for now. Now, in the future projects, it may be, once we find out about the capacity of the pumping station, if we find out, which is what is on the agenda tonight also, but once we find out all the details, we'll come back with a complete design of all of our bayous. That's part of our master drainage plan. And in it, it'll say how big we can go. If you do this, we can dig it this much bigger. At that point in time, come back and actually buy more right away if we can do it and work on a design that's given to us through the engineering of this master plan. So, but this initial phase is to clean and shape and make the bayou more efficient.
I would just be interested to know and see what work is going to be done on the Grand Goudin, because by making that more efficient, you're allowing more water to flow down Goudin, and in its sojourn through the parish, it passes through the city of Gonzales, and it's just my hope that it's a very brief visit that it's going to be making through the city, because we stopped digging at the airline highway. So as long as it continues on its way elsewhere, I'm okay. I'm just concerned about what you're going to do to the Goudin.
And that's exactly why we're cleaning and shaping and not adding really that much more capacity. It's cleaning and shaping so we can maintain it up to this point. All right.
Bill, I see y'all have already started surveying, putting markers.
That's what we're in the process of doing in-house value right now. And we're doing all that in-house.
We'll move on to number 8, USGS Joint Funding Agreement. Mr. Bill?
Yeah, this is the annual fee. This is what we pay for our gauging network. It's a contract with the USGS. And I think it's our share of $37,350, which is a 50-50 match. We've done it last year. We just asked for approval to do it.
We got a motion to approve the USGS joint funding agreement.
Motion by Mr. Southwood, second by Mr. Schexnayder. Any objections, questions? So moved. We'll move on to number 9, renewal of task order contract with Bill Rue or Mr. C.J. Goday.
No, I'm going to have to take care of this, Chairman. This is our annual renewal of contracts. We did it for the parish, and now we officially need to do it with the drainage board. We asked for approval of these some task order contracts. A, Salt Testing Engineers Incorporated, Geotechnical Services, BFM Corporation, LLC, Surveying Services, SJB Incorporated. We like to, if it's okay with the board, we like to offer a general task order contract to SJB for services, because they do provide other things other than surveying and including land acquisition and some other things. So we have to come back to the board to get your permission to give them a task order of any nature. But I think what we like to do here is to give them a general task order contract and not specify, and then leave it up on a case-by-case basis the board to approve what task order goes to them. So that's what we're asking on SJP. BCG Engineering Services, GSA Engineering Services, Louis Capizoli Geotechnical Services. And we'd like to add 2 new task order contracts, one for CDM for 2006, and also Burke Klein Peter for 2006 General Engineering task order contracts. Those are new. And that's the recommendation of the administration.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Byron.
I make the motion to accept the ones listed, but I don't think we need to add any more. We got enough engineers on task order.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, the reason we are, because CDM has already been approved by the board to do some work for Henderson Bayou, and also Burke Klein Peter has been approved by the board to do or at least to negotiate with for the drainage analysis. And what we don't want to do is give them a specific contract if we can, keep them with all what we've been doing in the past, give them a general task order contract and get every task order approved by the board, specifically to go tell them to do something. it works a lot better and we have a lot more control over it. And that's the reason we asked for those two.
I don't think you have control anytime you just give somebody a task order. I mean, you have control when you sign a specific contract with somebody to do a specific task. That's control. General task order is not control.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, the reason we went to task order is because I'll give you for instance, if we split everything down into small components, and we may just ask the engineering firm to say, give us an analysis of this drainage problem. That's the task order one. They'll come back with analysis. We come back to the board and say, this is what their findings are. Do you want to proceed to the next step with the design? Then it's up to you to go. If you go the other route, you're giving them the full contract to do engineering analysis, or construction, and or so on and so forth. At any point in time with a task order contract, you can stop it legally, and you don't have to proceed to the next step. And that's, again, we do it with all our consultants, and that's the reason we have that up.
Mr. McConnell.
Yeah, Mr. Rue is absolutely correct. We decided to go to this because it seemed like every time this body or any political body in the parish wanted to do something, we had to have a contract. It had to go through legal. It had to be, even though it was the identical contract, just the dates and the place names were changed. It had to go through all of that. Mr. Rue developed the task order program, whereas everybody has a contract, but then they're given the task orders, and the task orders are for the specific purposes. And I disagree with my colleague here because we have not given up any control. This body still has to approve each and every task order that is issued. It just streamlines the process, and it lets them get started right away rather than having to go through legal for the approval of a contract that's a standard contract. We're not giving up control.
Right. And it's not all the same engineers. You're talking, you got 2 geotechs, 2 surveyors. So
Since there's not a second to Mr. Byron's motion, I'll offer a motion to accept the recommendation.
He didn't ask for a second.
Hey, hang on a second. I think Mr. Valentine has a question.
Actually, that's what I was going to say, point of order.
Yeah.
Barry didn't get a second, so we really shouldn't be discussing it until we get a second.
Yeah.
So since he didn't get a second, since there's not one to offer it, you can act on that one.
So we got a motion by Mr. Byron. Do I hear a second?
I withdraw anyway.
Thank you, Mr.
And back again at you, Mr. Chairman, with my motion.
Okay, Mr. McConnell makes a motion, second by Mr. Hillenspect, to approve all contracts. And you might want to make sure that SJB is a general, it's a little bit different than the rest.
Exactly right, and we already made notations, CJ.
We're in CDM.
Any questions?
KI.
Right.
Any objections? So moved. Number 10 is upgrade of Marvin J. Burrow pumping station, electronic controls, Mr. Bill Root.
Yeah, we were asked to come back to this meeting, Mr. Chairman, to report back on the hiring of an engineer to do this. We went back to Private and Odom. They started giving us some information back. But with the help of URS, we are actually going through the suggestions made by Private and Odom on their analysis back in 2001, redefining the scope and actually what needs to go at that station, and actually talking to other engineering firms. And we'd like to defer this to the next meeting. It'll take another week or so to get to get pricing from several firms and an accurate scope of work. So again, we'd like to defer that to the next meeting.
That's the last one.
Last one.
Number 11, Renaissance subdivision, flooding in the Province Point subdivision, Mr. Jim Tatum.
Yeah, and I'm gonna handle this for Mr. Tatum. We began talking to Renaissance group on a subdivision in Prairieville off of LA 73 next to the Province Point subdivision. We've been having for years problems in that subdivision, Province Point. It was a poor engineering design subdivision. For us to go in there now, we did a cost estimate of it. For us to help out that subdivision, I'm talking about Province Point, and not even considering the new subdivision coming online, just like it is right now. With the size pipes and other things, structures, sub-drainage structures that has to go in there, it's going to cost us probably about $170,000. Because of the subdivision coming in there, they're going to have a reduced flow. That's up under the present flow coming off that piece of land. With the Renaissance subdivision coming in there, because of their drainage restrictions about detention ponds and whatever, they're going to be reducing the flow coming off of that piece of property. So as such, we can reduce the size of the drainage structure. But still in all, it costs us about $70,000 to provide the internal drainage structure in Providence Point. Renaissance subdivision developers has offered $30,000 for us to help us in doing that work because of the fact they're building there, and no matter what happens, if something does happen, the people at Providence Point are going to say it's the cause of that subdivision, even though it's not. So to that end, they're willing to donate $30,000 to the parish so we can do a $70,000 job. So in essence, it's going to cost the parish about $50,000, $45,000, and Renaissance is going to put up $30,000. We think it's a good idea to enter into this corporate endeavor agreement, and that's our recommendation. And we'd like to avoid approval so we can move forward with this project.
Well, we've got a problem back there existing right now, don't we?
Oh, yes.
Point.
Been there for years.
And the existing, the new subdivision you're talking about has already been approved by the planning zone commission.
I don't know if it's been approved. No, it's not been approved. This is in the negotiations with us as part of the approval process. They have to come to DPW.
But your recommendation, I'm sorry, your recommendation is only based upon approval of the planning commission and that whole planning process, right? Anything disagree?
Well, I tell you what, if they're willing to give us $30,000 and never build a subdivision, we'll still do it. I mean, that's just a deal for us. But
yeah, but now it's not. It's $30,000, not in the form of a little trying to really get us to approve the subdivision.
Well, the problem really it is and it's not. And I tell you the way we work. When it comes to DPW, we see things occurring adjacent to a subdivision. We always begin negotiation not only in what they have to do, but also how else can they help us in solving a problem adjacent to that subdivision. Many times they don't have to do it, but a lot of times because of the way we negotiate that they are willing to do it. But this is not the first time. We did it on Jefferson Highway. I think I forgot it, crossing. What's the name? Jefferson Crossing. We participated because of flooding in Monticello. So again, we've done it several other places. But again, this is our negotiating process.
But we know this is going to work and it's going to improve the situation.
It will improve it. It will improve it.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I just offer a motion to table this until, no sense in even offering or dedicating money if we don't even have preliminary approval. So I offer a motion to just table this till this particular subdivision gets or doesn't get preliminary approval. And then we'll address it out.
Put a motion on the floor. We have a second.
Mr. Chair. Okay.
Motion dies.
You want to withdraw that?
And if I may, Mr. the fact of the matter is we have to go in there and do the work. If something comes or don't come, I mean, it's at a point now we have to do something in that subdivision. Major problem, I think this farmer even lived there at one time. It's a problem, and we have to do something with it if they don't ever come. This is our chance to get our participation and get some money to do it.
That's her district, and I'm going to speak. She's very much aware of it.
Well, I came to the drainage board the night that they brought the information to get approved. And the reason I came was because I wanted to make sure that everybody knew that Providence Point has severe problems. I lived there for 2.5 years. During Allison, when you couldn't get through because of the flooding and stuff, they have some major stuff. And so I was concerned about that. And I think part of the reason why they're here tonight is that the planning and zoning wants the Department of Public Works to participate in getting whatever needs to be fixed in Providence Point prior to to okay in the subdivision. So we can't get it, we can't go forward, they can't go forward to planning and zoning until we know what's going to be done with the existing problem in the province. That's correct. That's
Just a comment, and it's going to go back to the discussions we had earlier about the Prescott Follett study and spending money here and spending money there. A serious problem that this parish has encountered, this drainage board has encountered, is because of all the growth, every time we build a subdivision, every time we have a new development, every time we have a new anything, it affects drainage. And we're now responsible for that. And therefore, we're spending money. And what happens is the tax that comes in for just regular, everyday maintenance of drainage is not enough anymore to handle all of the growth that's happened. And so we have been tapping into the major drainage money, the half-cent sales tax money. That's what's happened to it. It's not money that's been wasted or spent needlessly. It's the two pots happen to reside in the same vault, and drainage is drainage in some people's minds, and we have been tapping one to the other. And now you see the result. Here's a development that wants to come in, and they want to put something there, and they can't go in without it. Why not get them to do it? Why not get them to do it? You know, we had a big commercial development up on Airline Highway. There were some problems there. We met with those people, and they took care of it because they wanted to go there, and they overcame our objections. Why? Seems to me if this subdivision wants to go in there, that they'll take care of the drainage problem. I would like to participate, or at least learn some more information about this before we commit funds, because that's some more of that half-cent sales tax money that y'all are talking about. If you think we've diverted to other things, well, there it is. You're diverting it right now if you vote for this. I think you can think about this and see what kind of additional negotiations we can do with this Renaissance subdivision.
Mr. Hillsback.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Chairman, Martin, I don't usually disagree with you on these issues. I'm going to disagree with you a little bit on this one. It's my understanding, Bill, when these subdivisions are approved, CJ, you may want to jump in on this too, that retention ponds are planned, and when that subdivision is approved, it's approved back to the pre-existing condition where there's no impact to the drainage because of improvements made in the development when it's built. Am I correct?
That's absolutely correct, zero impact. And in this particular case, the subdivision, they're actually less outflow coming from the subdivision into Providence Point than it is right now. So they are benefiting Providence Point just by building that subdivision. This is over and above anything that they have to do, because they're actually reducing the amount of water coming off.
Well, I know this. We've got a problem in Providence Point. I've heard that come up before, and of course that's one of them. I think it drains to the Gooding. So I'm in favor of us moving forward, because we need to help the people in it. It's like I got people in my district, older North is here tonight, staff from the states. I know Mr. Byers has got people flooding in Martin subdivision. We all need help. And a lot of people think it's because of the development. I don't think it's so much the development because the retention ponds are put in. I think it's just because we haven't done proper cleaning and dredging. Over the years, we've been diverted by other issues. It's not the DPW or whoever hadn't been out there working. It's just that it needs to be addressed and exactly. So, yes,
but no, hold on a second. Again, on this particular issue, it's not the fact that we don't ever do this. In fact, we're negotiating right now with a developer out on Airline Highway, supposed to do this, on doing a drainage project jointly to benefit another property owner, so we get right of way on another location to settle a drainage issue. So we're actively doing this every time a subdivision comes to us to see if we can pull just a little bit more out of to do some stuff that we would have to do anyway. See that?
I just wanted to say, Bill's exactly right. When they build a subdivision, they're actually going to existing before they even thought about buying the land and developing a subdivision. So I think the question is whether it's fair to make them bear all the costs. by law, all they're supposed to do is not make the situation any worse. And really, they're going to make they actually make the situation better, but they're not going to completely cure the problem. If we go a little bit further, we can cure the problem. But once again, the developer's problem is the planning commission is waiting for the drainage board to make a move, and they're not going to make a move unless the drainage board, I guess, grants an authority or says it's okay. They keep planning commission telling them that the drainage board has got to address the issue. So they're sort of caught in the middle.
Well, one thing on it, we can go back and say, no, you can pay for all of it, none of it. Then they'll go back to the planning commission and the review agent and say, tell us what we have to do, and that's all we might do. And they'll come down and go by the rules of the planning, zero impact, they'll do exactly what they have to do, and nothing more.
So before we go any further, Mr. Mike Bardwell, who's on the planning commission, signed up to speak on this agenda item. Let's get some input from him.
Thank you, Mr. President, councilmen, councilwomen. This subdivision came before us last month at our meeting for preliminary approval. And one of the things that the commission was concerned about was the fact that this project is relying on things to be done by DPW. When nobody on the commission wants to commit and say that a subdivision should be approved without knowing what's going to be done by DPW. Nobody wants to impact any drainage further on Providence Point than what it is now. At the same time, we realize that there's a lot of work that's got to be done there. So it puts us in a predicament to have to deal with either approval or denial based on that. That was brought up at the meeting. Just make a motion one way or the other, or put contingencies in there based on Department of Public Works addressing the issues in Providence Point. I don't think the commission should be asked to make decisions based on contingencies like that. Another thing I've got concerns with is that this subdivision was been pre-app months ago. I'm wondering how it got to the point of coming before the commission without these issues being addressed. Now it's on our agenda, hasn't been pulled for Wednesday night. Still no issues have been addressed on this as far as I'm aware. And it hasn't been pulled off the agenda. So I just wanted to state that I don't think these type of issues should be coming before the commission with issues that big relevant to DPW. We just don't know at this point. I just wanted to make those statements. Thank you.
Bill, did I hear you correctly when you said that there was an engineering design problem here you're talking about from the original developers of the subdivision?
Providence Point is
and when was this developed?
I guess in the 90s sometime. It's well before our time. I mean, it's back in the 90s. It's a fairly new subdivision, but one of the first ones in that area.
So, Mr. Parish, can we go back? Do we have a statute of limitations on engineering flaws? No errors and omissions. I used to sell some of it for engineers, and
I would have to go look at what was done. I don't know what our rules were at that time. I didn't represent the commission at that time either.
Could you do that, please?
Okay.
Thank you.
I don't know a whole lot about the problem, except that I lived there during the time that this particular house flooded twice in like a 3-month period of time. The house should have never been built there. What is happening is the water is coming from the property that they're wanting to develop right now, comes straight through where that house was. So it was the natural flow of where the water normally goes. And what they did was put a house in the middle of the flow. And so the water just comes across there. They should have addressed that whenever they made that subdivision. That should have been probably more green space and maybe gone ahead and dug like a canal to get to the Goudin. Actually, what the water's doing is crossing over to go to the Goudin. It's not going, it's not channeled into the Goudin. It's just going across the land into the Goudin, trying to get there. But it's having to try to go through a house now. And they've never been able to sell the house. I mean, it's a really big mess.
Mr. Byron.
Mr. Rue, after I made my motion, you said it was gonna be a project anyway?
Yeah, we have to do something to change the flow.
With that information, if we're gonna do the project anyway, I mean, 70 or 40, it makes sense to go ahead and take the developer's contribution and do the project. So offer that as a motion.
Second.
Yeah, I think so.
Got a motion by Mr. Byron, second by Mr. Shake Snyder. Questions? Several.
I just got a comment. It's really exciting to listen to this dialogue here. I've been sitting around this table for going on 12 years now. And I'm seeing where we're starting to see where we need to go. I mean, it brings up a good point. We have an existing problem. We've got a developer who wants to come in. They need to come in and help. They need to appreciate whoever you are, appreciate it. We ought to have some guidelines in place where they come to the table. We passed a many projects across this table where we paid the whole 100%. Okay? So this is exciting to me to see this dialogue take place, to see the developers saying that, we need to send a message to the developers and anybody else that, hey, we want you to do business in Parish, but you got to do it in a controlled and to where it doesn't cost us and we don't bear the whole burden. So it's just exciting to put dialogue, and I'm going to support it as we go forward with this thing.
Any more questions? Hey, we got a motion by Mr. Byron, a second by Mr. Shake Snyder. Any objections? So moved.
When I heard debate, you're right.
Number 12, URS evaluation of Marvin J. Bro pumping station capacity. Mr. Michael Colonel.
I'll take care of this one too, Mr. Chairman. What this is we're asked at the last meeting to come back and you made the motion last time to begin negotiating with Bert Kleinpeter on this analysis. The scope of work, come back to the drainage board with the scope of work and some pricing. We're not quite finished with that. URS is assisting, and we need to tweak it a little bit more. We talked just a few minutes ago, in fact, about it, and we'd like to defer that to the next meeting so we can get the scope of work and the pricing down a little bit more exact. We're almost there, but not quite.
I'd be fine. Mr. Byron, make sure you have that on next agendas. Office meeting there. Number 13, we passing on. We'll move on to number 14, benchmarks. Mr. C.J. Godin.
And I will sit down. SJP is after an assistant presentation.
The board directed us a couple of meetings ago to look into the possibility of updating our benchmarks, intensifying our benchmarks and what have you. So SJP Group put together a plan, and they're going to give a presentation on that tonight. As you know, we're redoing our firm maps, and this sort of ties in with whatever we want to do.
Good evening. My name is Mark Ballard, project manager at SJP Group. We've got a couple of pamphlets for the council. What we're proposing to do is to identify the benchmarks in the parish. Thank y'all. Right now, the flooding we've seen down in South Louisiana has brought to light several issues about elevations that we have here. It's that we're facing. Elevations in Ascension Parish are about 25 to 0 down in the swamp. 25, a lot of people think it's 25 feet above sea level. It's actually 25 feet above a datum that NGS has come up with, which they call NAVD 88. NAVD 88 was comprised to take place in a NGVD 29, which is what the flood maps go through. The elevation of the water, which a lot of people think is the baseline, it's not actually the baseline. The low mean water of the Gulf right now is about 0.5 feet above, or 0.5 NAVD 88, whereas the mean high water is 1.3. The elevations, as you can tell, the land, that's about 10%. If you look at the 10% from 20 foot is the highest point in Ascension Parish, and 0 in the marsh area. That's not a whole lot of slope in the parish to drain it, which means we need good elevations in the parish. 42% of the land in East Baton Rouge Parish has the potential of being flooded by a 100-year flood, whereas 70% in Ascension Parish has the potential, and 75% in Livingston Parish. This map here represents Ascension Parish and shows the flood-prone areas or areas within flood inundation. The dark blue areas, as you can see around your cities, are areas that we just couldn't distinguish very well for this presentation. So that's why Donaldsonville, Gonzales, and Sorrento are dark blue shades. Don't get the impression that's in the flood zone and Gonzales is fixing to go underwater or anything. The difference between NAVD 88 and NGVD 29 are in 1927 they had a great flood along the Mississippi River. The United States government realized that they needed a good benchmark for all the elevations to go off of. So they took 26 tidal stations in the United States and Canada and held those as good. Then they constrained the survey work to those tidal stations. Well, there were large differences in coastal areas because mean sea level is only relative within a few miles of the actual gauge station. So the mean sea level in South Louisiana is a completely different elevation than mean sea level in southern Florida. Here's some, just a basic chart showing different datums that NGS has published. In 1929, as you can see, they used 26 tide stations and approximately 67,000 miles of leveling. 1988, they used 388,000 miles of leveling and one tide station to hold true. That way, all the elevations in the continental United States are relative to each other. Current loss, an issue of subsidence. Yeah. These are the various rates of subsidence that we know about and have actually been able to document data throughout decades of time. If you look below New Orleans, it's about 14 centimeters all the way down toward Empire, you come up to 24 to 26 centimeters. This right here is a representation of a benchmark showing the subsidence of the land around the benchmark. These benchmarks were actually, when they were constructed, the benchmarks were constructed several inches below the surface of the ground to keep people from damaging them with mowers and construction equipment. Over the course of time, the ground is settled around it, and the benchmarks are on a steel rod driven into the ground. They actually, according to NGS, are a stable mark. There's another instance of another benchmark, and we have quite a few of these in South Louisiana. This slide here shows the different benchmarks that NGS says are right now in Ascension Parish. We don't know if all these benchmarks are in because we haven't seen them, haven't put our eyes on them in a while. They range from a concrete post with a brass disc on top of it to a steel rod driven into the ground. In October, after the storm came through, well, go back in 2004, NGS came through, realized that there was a subsidence issue. They came through and did another analysis of our benchmark data. When they came out with a readjustment, they realized there were several benchmarks in the area that are not, if the benchmark subsides more than 2 centimeters, NGS says that the benchmark is no longer valid. They came out with a new observation in October, and now Ascension Parish doesn't have any valid benchmarks, including benchmarks that SJP said 2 years ago, which were all off of this one master benchmark that was out as 3B60, which that benchmark itself has been dropped from the National Geodetic Survey database. There's 3 marks now that NGS considers good, and all of them are along the river, and only one of them is on the east side of the Mississippi River in Ascension Parish. The other mark is below in St. James Parish, and one is across the river in Donaldsonville. These marks here are what NGS says are good relative to other areas of the state. And Ascension Parish isn't the only parish like this. In southern Louisiana, below I-10, there are only 85 benchmarks that are valid in coastal Louisiana. What NGS has gone by to start studying these monuments and determining the rates that they're subsiding is what you call a core station. That's not Corps engineers or anything like that. It's continuously operating reference station, which basically is just a GPS antenna that continuously records data constantly. And NGS monitors this data and can tell if that station is moving. A core station, it's utilized for different communities for different things. You can monitor your emergency response vehicles with these core stations. You can map your utilities. You can map your new development to where you can accurately depict where the subdivision is going to be at and where it's going to fall into the floodplain area. It can be used to accurately determine how well the FEMA or firm maps are from FEMA. They're used for navigation along bayous and rivers, and also in the surveying community. I should have had gone and clicked with us. That's our navigation of the rivers, and that's the surveying community. This is the network right now in South Louisiana, or in Louisiana, of the current core stations that are operating and being observed not only by the National Geodetic Survey, but the Louisiana Spatial Reference Center, which is based out of LSU, and they monitor all these stations, and they take care of the cost and the maintenance of these core stations to make sure that it's a continuous database where some person needs information from LSU or from Thibodeau, if they go to the same general type of website, so it's not different websites for different sites. It's very easy to extract data from. Now I need to get to my point. What we would like to do is come up with better monumentation, better flood planning and damage control, better relative data for stream gauges and drainage planning, and building and construction. Why? Because a lot of your FEMA maps that are coming out, they're based off of what they call LIDAR, which is basically it's an image of the state that they take planes and satellite image to determine the elevation to the ground. The elevations from LIDAR maps are plus or minus a half a foot. If you take a half a foot compounded to the rise of sea level or subsidence of land, however you would like to look at that, it could possibly lead to some flooding in areas that you wouldn't think would happen, just for the simple fact that the water is actually higher than what you think it is in the LIDAR data. It gives a very good overall representation of the state, but it doesn't give a very accurate representation at that point, not like a surveyor can actually do. take your surveyors and you go out there and just run elevations, the surveyor can have, and I hate to say this being a surveyor myself, there's errors in your measurements. And third order NGS standards, if you took and started at one end of the parish and went to the other end of the parish, you could theoretically be off a foot before you get to the other side of the parish and still be within their specs. So you compound that with a half a foot of LiDAR data and the rise of sea level, you've got quite a bit of difference. What we're proposing is to put NGS quality monuments with federal responsibility and liability. What we would do, we would construct the monuments, observe survey data on it, submit this data to the National Geodetic Survey, and have them publish the elevations. And then they would be responsible for maintaining these marks and constantly updating them. A GPS reference station network in the parish. We're proposing 3 GPS core stations in the parish. So later on down the line, when additional observations need to be made on the marks, a baseline has been made with these core stations, something that can be monitored and referenced again. We would like to submit this to NGS approval. What the monuments we would like to build are Class B monuments. NGS says that these monuments don't subside, and as you saw in some of the earlier pictures, the ground subsides around them, and the monument sticks up. The next marks, the next photos will show us actually constructing some of these monuments. You auger a hole into the ground about 4 foot deep, and then you attach a driving apparatus, which is a gas-powered jackhammer. You take a 4 foot section of stainless steel rod and drive it into the ground. And you keep adding 4 foot sections until you reach what they call refusal, which is with that jackhammer, you can only drive that rod in the ground 1 foot per minute. After that's done, you put a concrete casing, protective casing around the mark, an aluminum cover, so that people can mow over the top of it and people won't be falling in the hole and whatnot. The actual survey mark is the silver tip in the top right there. The pink fins you see on that is what NGS calls a frost sleeve. And it's for areas that have a lot of freezing. The ground theoretically seizes around that plastic sleeve and will heave that sleeve up and down and won't seize around the rod itself. In Alaska, they've driven rods down in there and the ground freezes and actually forces the rods up and will actually force the rods up and give them an inaccurate elevation. The monumentation plan we would like to do is research the monumentation needs of all the agencies active in the parish, the police, the fire, the water, and the gas, and find out what their needs are with the system. We would like to research the underlying soil stratus to find out how far down we would actually have to drive these rods. Around the river, we've had to drive them close to 100 feet. So I'm thinking Ascension Parish, we're going to have to go probably 100 to 150 foot deep with these rods. We would like to research existing, stable, and suitable NGS monuments. That way we can keep the cost of the parish down by utilizing some existing NGS marks that you saw in the frame before with all the little yellow dots. That way we would give NGS some current survey data on some of their marks and, like I say, save a little bit of the cost because the rods, they may be 4 foot long, but they're $20 a piece. And if you start putting monuments in the parish, you can definitely run into some high costs. And we would like to use some existing marks. We would like to research other sites for Class B deep rod monuments that I showed you, and GPS reference stations, schools, parks, churches, pump stations, government facilities are very good sites for these. And there are portions of the northeast part of the parish that don't have any NGS monuments or no stable benchmarks, and that would be an area that we would like to densify and help the development to speed site feasibility and determine if an area actually could be developed. We would like to research routes for third order level routes for areas that we could utilize GPS in to determine elevation. we do have in-bar rods, which is basically, it's a low expansion material, and it's, instead of the surveyor reading the rod, it's a barcode like you had, like you scanned with the Lynn-Dixon. It's a barcode, and the survey instrument actually reads the barcode, and it reads it to 1/10 of a millimeter. This is a typical fixed height tripod setup that we would use. It's 2 meters to eliminate measurement errors. This is a site that we're utilizing at the LSU Parade Grounds. We're currently doing a monumentation study in Baton Rouge. Along the same lines, we've constructed 46 additional monuments in East Baton Rouge Parish that we've determined the areas that need additional monuments. This is the in-bar rods that I spoke of and the leveling. Basically, you set the rods up, point the instrument at it, and it begins to collect data. I'd like to see the parish be proactive, not reactive, where we have a flood issue or some houses set at the wrong elevation. And St. Bernard Parish and Jefferson Parish had some issues back in the 80s where they didn't have enough monumentation, and they had to go through quite an extensive monumentation program in the 90s just to update the current set of monumentation to meet the FEMA guidelines. I'd like to thank y'all for y'all's time, and I welcome any questions y'all might have. Yes, sir.
Shane Stein.
You said you were going to look into add benchmarks and everything.
Yes.
Can you use the current benchmarks and reset them?
Yes, sir. That's part of the plan, is that we would go out and actually research the monuments, find out which monuments are still in place, which monuments NGS would like to have additional data on, and then just reobserve those benchmarks instead of constructing a new benchmark. There's no sense in constructing a benchmark in an area where you've already got a benchmark there. It can be utilized with the GPS.
Yeah, this has been stated a number of times by different surveyors and everything. One of the problems in our parish is that, and I do know we have a great deal of subsidence, and I do know that the ocean water is rising, and there is margin for error here. And I would hate for us to be within that margin of error here. So we need to, in my opinion, I think we need to do something in this area. I don't know how far we need to go, but this is something that needs to be addressed so that the people can be assured that the measurements that we give them are going to be accurate. And we're in the process now of doing levees, and to find out that some levees in New Orleans that they thought were at 17 feet, in reality it was at 15 feet, things of that sort. I think it's important that we address this issue. I would like to hear, yes.
What we'd like to do is come back to the next meeting, and next meeting we're going to have a task card for you with the numbers, the cost, and the actual core participation. It looks like we're going to get 50-50 core participation. We'll put all the numbers together and come back to you with a specific task card with those numbers at the next meeting.
And that's what I was going to ask. Okay.
We just got this information about the core participation, so I'll let you as Mark give a blanket resolution.
No.
Get a blanket, all right.
CJ and I asked the same question I asked you a couple weeks ago about this. Let's give a little educational class here as far as why do we need to do this? Why does the parish need to do this?
Well, I could possibly touch on that. Because I was asked by Mr. CJ about if we had one benchmark in the center of the parish, how well would that serve our needs, and could the surveying community actually utilize that one benchmark? And that is where, if you look at the parish and look at the standards that NGS has for third-order benchmarks, which is the lowest class of benchmarks. If you go, there are 12 millimeters per kilometer run. You can be in error. If you take that run from the bottom of the parish to the north end of the parish, you can be up to a foot off in elevation. If you take the same, if you don't have anything to check it with, I should say, the north end of the parish relative to the south end of the parish, you take and observe with GPS the south end of the parish and the north end, and go to extreme outliers and a few marks on the interior of the parish. You have a network that is very relative to each other, and you can take and run levels, conventional levels, your surveyors will be able to, and check into a mark, and that'll give you a greater degree of accuracy and a more of a comfort zone that their work is correct. Because, like I say, from the length of the parish, you could be up to a foot off with running just conventional levels from one end of the parish to the other and come back. You could be off a foot and not actually realize it still meets the specs for running levels. And if you combine that with a foot, with a half a foot, the LiDAR data could be off. I know the parish is going a foot over base flood, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, you could be actually a foot and a half off in error. I just think that having something for the people to check into at the different outliers of the parish would I don't want to say CYA for y'all, but it would actually give y'all something. It would reduce the liability of the parish, because then actually you could say, Mr. Surveyor, you need to check into 2 marks with 2 mile spacing. It wouldn't be that expensive for the developer to pay the surveyor to run between the 2 marks. Whereas if you run a typical level loop, you're looking at about 1 mile an hour, and across the parish and back, it's about 25 miles, if I'm not mistaken. And you're looking at about $2,500 easy to run elevations from one end to the other. And that's just one way, not coming back and checking upon yourself. So it would be the normal cost of an elevation certificate is around $250 to some people go as low as $150. So it would be beneficial to the developers to have a densification of monumentation, so they can more accurately determine what the elevation of the property is and determine if it's feasible to develop on it or not, or if it was going to be too much dirt.
All right, the next question is, and I understand that basically the more benchmarks you got, the easier or the quicker and the faster and the cheaper that the surveyors can charge the individual, whether it be a developer or an individual homeowner. My question to Bill and CJ is, how many do we need to satisfy our needs as far as conducting parish business?
Well, we have more than what we need. We don't need that many for our exact program of what we do, because we don't do elevation checks and stuff like that. But let's be clear. We were just talking a minute ago about a similar situation, I think, Justin. Why don't you tell the council members what happened there?
Back in the late 80s, Jefferson Parish was sued by FEMA because over so many years their benchmarks had subsided, and the local surveyors were using the subsided benchmarks to set grade elevations for homes. When there was a massive flood, they came back and checked the elevations, and the pile-supported houses, which should not have settled, were actually lower than the base flood elevations they were supposed to be at. The parish got sued, and part of one of the mandates that was part of the settlement that was done was that the parish had to go in and densify their first and second order monument system to meet the criteria, so that when the surveyors set these base flood elevations for homes, that they were being set at the right point. And without a stable mark like SJP has shown you, you will have subsidence in there. Bert Klein-Peter was part of the program that helped put in those marks, and then did the master drainage plan study afterwards based upon those new marks to set the elevations for the 50-year flood, 100-year flood, etc.
So this is just a different briefing. As we get involved with it, we're learning more and more about it. The bottom line is that we think that the parish is obligated to provide these stable benchmarks, even though we don't use it, it's still part of government to authorize this, number one, and to get them set. The surveys just don't go set them. And the more we have, the better it is for the public at large, because they're getting more accurate surveys and elevations. The other thing is the fact that we have the possibility now, it's pretty definite, we get 50-50 funding for this from the Corps of Engineers. And that's why we want to come out with the hard numbers. So you can look at the number and you say, okay, it's a lot of money, but if the Corps can pay 50% of it, we get a lot of benefit half the cost. Again, you have to look at the number, but that might be a condition that you say, well, we can live with this. Without us participation, our participation in the Corps will not go settled. You know, it's just through us that we're able to get this. So that's why we recommend coming back to you next month with hard numbers, so you see exactly what you're getting and what it's costing the parish, and then y'all make that determination. I'm gonna get that to you before the next meeting, so you can look at it, think about it, and y'all, the numbers will be in front of you, so you can make an educated decision at the next meeting.
When you say numbers, you're talking about cost numbers.
Cost.
How many benchmarks do we have present?
60 some odd.
70s. Well, it depends. It depends. We set 70-something as part of our modeling. If we didn't want to lose all that effort and money we paid for the modeling, so we captured some along there. But you know, Bill was right. This is really something that we should do because it's the right thing to do. It's hard to say how dense you need to make them, but you almost need to do more than less, because when you start having problems, even if the parish is right, you know, and we frequently in the past have said, well, these are professional people, there should be some liability, which is true. But as you know, the parish has not been liable at all in some of our past projects, and there's been material errors, and the parish is still suffering. You know, we still have to clear up something. But this, somebody just told me one thing that's important. We're getting ready sooner or later to do the parish-wide sewer system. The parish-wide sewer system, and the elevation is very critical because you have a lot of gravity flow, so you're going to have to be very, very accurate on that stuff for it to work right. So it's going to become very important then. But also understand what they're proposing, and they'll tell you later on. They will densify, and also they're going to put monuments, these core stations around there. So once you do that first one-time cost, then in the future it's going to be a lot easier to recheck your monuments, because these core stations would like to do that. So it's you know, and then there's a mom and pop. You're right. Right now they're paying $100, $150 for a slab elevation. If you have to run 2 or 3 miles, it's going to cost them a lot more. So you know, that's just something to consider. It's hard to say. I think NGS says they like to have a mile spacing. But we tried to find a law that said, the rule that said you've got to have this many, and we haven't found that yet.
A couple questions, gentlemen. People have been talking to me of late that this land subsidence issue is really probably more of an issue with coastal problems than coastal erosion itself. And that it's really going to continue. There's not a lot we're going to be able to do about it unless we knock the levee down Mississippi River and let the land replenish and flood people again. So if we, and just give me a ballpark, soft number, Bill, not a hard number here tonight, what are we talking about to do this right? I mean, what kind of dollars are we talking about?
Basically, it depends on how many of the marks, how many of the old marks we can reobserve, and how many of the new
just
marks.
I'm not always not trick question, just approximately, so we can think about this for a moment.
4 to 5.
4 to 500,000?
Yes, sir. The core stations are going to run you about 30,000 apiece.
Okay, now, if we invest that money, what is the probability that these benchmarks will become obsolete because the land continues to subside? Or is that not a possibility?
No, that's an extreme probability, and that's probably what it is. The Spatial Reference Center out of LSU, they come up with a subsidence rate for all the benchmarks. They come and they observe gravity at these marks, and over the course of time, with continuously operating reference stations, they set up GPS points at these marks, and they'll come back in 2 years, set another GPS receiver up there. and determine what the rate, because every spot in the parish, what might be subsiding here 2 centimeters a year, if you go a mile down the road, that might be subsiding 4 centimeters a year. The strata of Louisiana is not consistent based on, like you said, annual flooding that we used to have. There was deposit land here one year and then sand here next year and then come back. It depends on how it's accreted. So with our monumentation plan, putting the core stations in and updating the benchmarks that are GPSable. What I'm saying GPSable, GPS doesn't work very well under canopy trees, metal buildings right next to it. It creates multipath, which is distortions in the sine waves from the satellites. The marks that we were going to put in were put in GPS accessible places where somebody could come back, set up a line, set up a GPS unit, observe on that mark, and be fine with the data that they get, instead of having to go a mile down the road, set another mark, observe it, and then run conventional levels to the mark that we set.
All right, well, let's say we do this. The board decides they want to do this. Based on historical data and rates of society, say the last 20 years, 25, whatever that benchmark should be for determining the rate of society, what is the life expectancy going forward before this $400,000 to $500,000 investment would be used up with subsiding, so it would no longer be usable to it? I mean, just an approximation number of years.
I think it's 4 millimeters a year is what we're looking at in Ascension Parish.
We're subsiding 4 millimeters a year in Ascension?
Yes, sir. And as an average. And you're looking at 2 to 5 centimeters is where NGS starts dropping the benchmarks out of the database. So at that current rate of subsidence, you're looking between 5 and 10 years. You might have to come back and
do this all over again.
Well, you wouldn't have to do the whole project, because your core stations, which is a large portion of the project, will already be in place and still maintainable and still running at that point in time. We have a continuously operating reference station in our office. We've had it up for 3 years now, and so far our maintenance costs, knock on wood, is absolutely none.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, I just have one quick question. I missed it in the presentation. I stepped out. Have we validated the existing benchmarks to establish that there may be a problem?
That is, if you look somewhere in there, they have a map that shows all the benchmarks that were validated before October. It's represented by a map with some yellow circles on it. Those were the benchmarks that NGS first said were valid before October of this year. And if you flip to the next map, that shows the benchmarks that are valid in the parish now. See it?
Great.
Which are
If I want, not to interrupt, but like Mr. Pequot just told me, you're really not having to, correct me if I'm wrong, not having to go and reset, put all the benchmarks, you just recalibrate the benchmarks you have in there. We bring them up, the level marks in them, up a few centimeters or whatever to get to the right elevation again. So you're not resetting everything, from the get-go. You just recalibrate the goal that's in place. So the cost is very minimal compared to what it is now, really for a whole lot of years.
You're looking at the cost of a deep rod monument. You're looking at the cost of about $5,000 a monument, or a couple $1,000 just to set a mark in the bridge. So those costs will be absorbed in this first phase of the project. You won't have to do that again, because these marks will be very stable. There's marks from the 70s when they first started utilizing these deep rod monuments, and realizing that there was a subsidence issue in Louisiana. In the 70s, they started putting these marks in, and those marks are still being used today by surveyors.
Well, if you would, for your cost analysis presentation a month from now, would you include some probability benchmarks and anticipated cost 5 or 10 years from now, so that this board can see that in addition to the initial investment?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Put it on the agenda for next one. Meeting. Move on to Chairman's report. I got someone wanting to speak, Ms. Carla Cormier, on some grants that's available for our Ascension Parish.
Good evening. Heather's going to go ahead and pass out a folder to you. This is just some information on the hazard mitigation grants that you're eligible for right now for the non-competitive fund. It is for the 1603 and 1607, which is Katrina and Rita funding. And right now you are eligible for $600,000 for severe repetitive loss underneath the Katrina funds and $2.3 million under the Rita funds. And that's for the 75-25 match. And if you look through the folder, to your right, you're going to see some information, some handouts. This is a letter that I submitted to your chairman and a proposal of what my firm would do as the project manager of that contract. The application deadline is April 1st for the Katrina money, and that's for the $600,000 for the severe repetitive loss. The legal sheets that you have here, the hazard mitigation checklist, every one of these tasks has to be completed when your application goes in. And this takes actually takes about 2 to 4 months to get your application ready, so you're already behind law. You have to have your public hearing, which you should get two weeks notice to your potential applicant, and also do your complete engineering now. You cannot do it any longer with preliminary and conceptual designs. You have to submit 100% engineered plans. So it takes a while for these homeowners to get their information together. The next sheet is your engineering checklist, which your engineer has to complete. So you have to have every bit of this completed also prior to your application going in. The funding handout here is showing you that 75% for mitigation measures. The only things that are eligible right now with the Katrina money is acquisition and elevation. You don't have any drainage projects you can do with this funded money, this round. And you do have the 25% cost share, and in the past you split share with the homeowners on that money. And this is just a flow chart that FEMA provided. It shows the Katrina flow, how the money comes down, where it goes. If you do not utilize that $600,000, your application is not in prior to April 1st, that $600,000 is released to competitive monies. You then have to compete for the money that you actually are entitled to now. And that's what the next handout says. This is exactly word for word from FEMA. And your application, how it's going to be graded, so you can look at that. Your Rita money, Rita came in a month after Katrina, so we do have a little bit longer, but it's to your benefit and to the homeowner's benefit to start now on those applications, even though they're due in May. Because those folks, you don't have to be a severe repetitive loss structure. You can go ahead and just be a target structure for the parish. If you had a homeowner that was affected with either Katrina or Rita money, but not severe repetitive loss, they can actually be an applicant in that funding. So it's good to go ahead and express that to your homeowner at your public meeting. And the same thing, if you do not submit that $2.3 million by May 1st, the parish would have to compete for the money they're entitled to now. So I'm here tonight to ask if the drainage board would go ahead and consider my firm to do this information, this work for this application. And if you have any questions on the project or the proposal process.
Questions from Ms. Cormier?
I need to make sure I understand. Carl, is this, the $250 million is coming down additionally? I understand there's talk of $2 or $3 billion.
Yes.
Hazardous mitigation with much more flexibility in competitive losses and so forth. And I've been shown a chart where Ascension is $5.2 million this year, $250 million. Is this the same money you're talking about here, the 2.9 and 2.3?
Actually, Ascension is only eligible for 2.9 total, 600,000 for Katrina and 2.3 for Rita. That's a short-term funding.
Where does the 5.2 come from? It's on the FEMA website. It shows Ascension.
I have not seen that. information. This is actually the information that FEMA gave to us and is actually released. So this is a short-term funding. This is the funding that came out in the interim. I have an allocation sheet that I can give to everybody that shows the breakdown of each parish.
Thank you.
Seven.
Yeah, I don't have a question for Mr. Fomey right now, but Mr. President, at the last meeting, I made mention to you that I'd like to see some, couple firms come in here as far as, whether it be consulting firms or grant writer or whatever, in terms of protecting the drainage board as far as going out and getting our fair share of the monies coming down from Washington in regards to the Hurricane Katrina and Rita issue. What I found is it appears that we are in line for $2.9 million in for elevation and acquisition. Okay, that's the first thing that this board needs to decide. Do we want to go after that $2.9 million or do we not? For the 25% match, which we have been letting the landowner or the property owner take up that 25% or the match, whatever the match was. I called OEP today, got a list of the severe repetitive loss, and I'd like for a list of the target structure list, which I haven't received that yet. This is something that we need, I feel like this board needs to go after, because we've got a full page that's already been identified, okay, that we could possibly help these individuals without a nickel coming from the drainage board, okay? If we continue doing it the same way that we've done that, where we let the landowner or the property owner take up their match portion. It's my understanding that in order to get the first round, which is for Katrina, we have to have application in by April 1st. Now, I realize that it's February 6th, but there's still, the procedure takes a while because you have to get all the property owners involved and have a stakeholder meeting, which that takes time to do all that and get it prepared. So we're running out of time. So, Mr. President, I need to know from you and your administration, where are we in terms of submitting an application for April the 1st?
Well, call Thursday night, you approve the contract with Paul Keller and Associates to be the crank consultant, do some lobby work for us. Now, he can oversee this whole process. Now, also, if I understand, Carla, what you're talking about tonight, is that this drainage board currently has a contract with Aegis to do this hazardous mitigation, repetitive loss. So, we've got one in place now. Now, CJ, have we feel have they been talking with us, Aegis, on?
Actually, this pretty much been turned over to planning department. I believe Marion is pretty much floodplain administrator in charge of it, and I think she has been talking to them. But I have to get a report from Marion on exactly where she's at in this process.
She does have the list that you're looking for. She does have the
Okay,
list.
but what's more important to this board tonight is where are we moving forward with the application to be submitted for April the 1st. That's what's important. That's an important time frame right here.
Mary has been going to several different meetings that they've had to on this side. I can't really tell you, Jerry. I know they've been trying to meet. She's met with me once. She's met with. I don't know the exact answer to your question. Her and CJ have to work together because part of it is you need an engineer, and so CJ obviously is an engineer and Mary isn't. So, and I guess she's met with me personally a couple of times in the last few weeks on this process. Now, she has not specifically told me that she usually got to do this by April 1st. I don't know if she's been meeting with Aegis. And I think the contract with Aegis is with the drainage board.
Right here.
And so it's just a matter that this board wants two consultants to be working on the same issue, or you want to use the one you did have, or you want to use the new one. Now, I don't even remember the contract language right now with the contract. I don't know if I don't remember if it's an exclusive or not. I know some of you do, I don't know if O'Neill knows. These contracts.
I'm sure the big key thing on this is that we meet the deadline, whatever it takes. And that's the bottom line. Elsewise, we're going to lose close to $3 million.
I would ask in the future, Mr. Chairman, if we actually put on that what it is, but we don't know what it is, it's under new business, so we would have been able to work this issue with what's going on there. And I actually put the topic here, the new business and old business is so broad. So we did what you had asked us last month, Jerry, with Paul Keller and Associates. That contract was approved by legal this morning. We signed tomorrow morning with Paul Keller and Associates, and that contract is pretty broad. We didn't specify in there just parish government or drainage board. We just signed a contract with them to oversee our grants process. And so.
And the reason it got brought up, this just got brought to my attention in the last week, so I didn't have time to actually get it on the agenda.
We'll check on that first thing in the morning.
Yeah, CJ, do you know if Marion's been having any conversation with Aegis about it?
She has not actively started any process at all for funding.
If I may, Councilman, the one thing is the fact that the legal issue that we have to talk to the attorney about. Aegis is really no longer. They had changed their name. They're really under another entity right now. So I don't know about the binding of the contract if it was under the
Look at the contract.
That's right. We have to review that too to see if in fact we're obligated to go under it. It's called a contract. The name of the company changed. That's that one.
Okay. Our main objective is not to lose the money that's already earmarked for Ascension Parish. That's my main concern. Now, I was hoping that we could do it today. So far as Aegis, I knew Aegis has been dissolved, and now they are something else. Okay. But I haven't heard or seen of Aegis. I did talk to Jeff today to find out what's going on, and it wasn't a positive conversation that I had with him in terms of working with the department or whatever. I didn't like what I heard. Okay? He's not working on this particular one right here, I know. Okay? So far as Mr. Paul Keller, Mr. President, the council approved Paul Keller. The drainage board did not. This is a totally different, separate entity, so it has to be approved by the board. Whether we do or not, that's beside the point. I really don't care. What I care about is not losing the money and making sure we do what we need to do to move forward. We're all running out of time on the first allotment of money. Now, whether we go with Aegis if we can legally, we don't know that. How much time does it take? Carla, can you help us, give us a time frame? How much time does anybody, you, Aegis, or Paul Keller need to meet our maybe one deadline?
It actually takes, like I said, 2 to 4 months to even get the application prepared. So you are running against the clock. I'm certified in these applications to develop them, so I do know how to, and we also have dedicated staff to work directly with the Ascension Parish.
So, Mr. President, I'm going to yield to you.
Let me ask Carla another question. Now, make sure we understand. So you're saying that $600,000 is available right now with 1603, right?
Correct.
Can only be used for?
Only for acquisitions and elevations.
Can't be used for any other type of hazardous mitigation projects.
Not this time.
Okay, now, I don't know if I've got a clear answer yet. Is this part of the $250 million that's been allocated with the hurricane relief, or is this a separate pot of money here now?
I do believe it's a separate pot of money. I'd have to go back and check and make sure, but the money that we have, the allocations, and I don't know, I know I gave the chairman the breakdown when we discussed it. And I'm sorry I didn't bring it with me, but it is $600,000 for the train of 2.34
At 2.3 then is also money that can only be used for repetitive loss, elevation, or buyouts.
That part of the money can be used for target structures. If there is a house that has been damaged by Katrina or Rita but not a severe repetitive loss, it can be accepted as a structure in the grant. But it cannot be used for drainage projects, kind of dredging, or any kind of other project.
Okay, now,
If I may, I might better clear something up, Mr. President. It is about 5.2 million, and I think the difference is that other couple of $1 million is actually money that can be used for drainage projects, mitigation on a bigger scale. And that's the part that makes up the 5.2 million. The first part is just for housing. The second part is for other mitigation projects for drainage.
Now, if you do not apply for that 2.9, it goes back into a competitive process. That's not earmarked for you any longer. So it's not set aside for us.
recall how this list that we have and Ms. Marion's been working off of, how is the priority established? Is this drainage board determining which is the highest priority? Who gets it? Is it a lottery where you pull names out of a hat, a repetitive loss? How is it done fairly?
The severe repetitive loss list, if you're targeting your Katrina structures, you look at the one that is the highest score of severe repetitive loss.
All right, now how many competitive losses do we have at Katrina? I understand Katrina, we didn't really have any floods.
We didn't have a problem.
So now, if we didn't have any flooding, would Katrina call it, but we still...
It doesn't matter. You're still eligible for a severe repetitive loss, $600,000
You're
for that.
already on the list,
Right.
you know, before Katrina even came.
Correct. And you can opt to only target severe repetitive loss with all the 2.9, but you have the option for the 2.3 to not target severe repetitive loss. You can target other structures that have been damaged.
And what FEMA makes the final decision
Yes.
on which one. You send it in to them, they go through their process, and they actually come back saying, these are the ones that we're going to fund. So they make final rules.
You actually put down more targets, more structures than you're actually going to fix. You have substitution. Some homeowners may change their mind. They may not want to elevate or anyway.
Well, to answer your question, Jerry, I don't know of any problem doing this as long as we don't have a legal issue with the present contractor that you have and deal with. You can pass a motion based on legal
Mr. Chairman, I'm not, being kind of new, I'm not really familiar with the cost that these consultants charge. Do y'all know if this percentage may be in line with other contracts? If it is, I mean, we have a consultant here, we're going to pay someone to do it. We have a consultant here that looks like she's on top of it and ready to act for the parish. Our other consultant hasn't even talked to us about this project, or like Mr. Savoy said, he isn't even planning on working on this project. I think it would be crazy not to look at a firm that's ready and willing to act as long as this fee is comparable to our other consultant.
And actually, the fee is lower than most consultants just because of my history with the parish.
Mr. Kent. And I echo Mr. Barrett. And since it's pretty obvious that no one else has moved on this monies, and this will enable us to help get some people out of the repetitive losses, I move forward and hire this firm pending legal approval of the contract, and that we help try to save as many of these houses as possible, and also might enable us to get that house in this Platno has been saying is built in the wrong place removed, so we can have some natural drainage in that area. So with that, I move that we move forward and award this contract on this basis.
Second. A motion by Mr. Shakespeare, second by Mr. Myers. Discussion.
I'd just like to point out, we just hired a grant consultant, and he had ruled out not handling this. He has been on board some 90 days, and so we don't know if he's working on it or not. I mean, so I think until that's clarified, I'd rather hold up and let's get some clarification, maybe bring before the either have a special meeting, special drainage board meeting, and decide the issue. Because we're paying the new consultant for the parish, and it never was ruled out you couldn't handle something for the drainage board as well. $60,000 a year. And I think since we already put the money out, I think we can get full use of what we're paying for already.
Well, and the reason I said that is because we have not been brought anything. If we would have been moving forward with it, we would have been addressed with this tonight, because I don't think we could wait till next month. And we would have had to have been addressed by our council that we hired, which I very much support him being here. This is something that if this is going to happen, we have to make a decision tonight. This is what's been brought forward to us. And therefore, since we have no other options, I want to move forward with this so we can save the people of the parish a great deal of money.
Actually, I'm not charging a fee to prepare the grant application. The fee is actually in the project management of the project after the grant is funded.
Any more questions? We got a motion by Mr. Shanksnyder, second. Motion by Mr. Byron, second by Mr. Shanksnyder. Any objections?
Object.
One objection. So moved.
Mr. Chairman, just for your information, because you may hear about it a little bit later, we're coming back to haunt us. Because through this program, the FEMA has come back into states, but I think $4 million or something like this, a large amount of money, saying that something wasn't done right, went back to the state OEP. Now, state OEP is coming back to the parish, saying that our portion of what they owe is like $400,000 or something like this. I don't know the particulars about it, but this is because, I'll be honest with you, I'm leery of FEMA. Because they changed the rules halfway between stuff, and all of a sudden it says, we give you money, now we want it back. We haven't settled the issue of this $400,000 or whatever it is that state OEP is saying we owe as part of the whole thing, a bill that FEMA sent to the state for this program over the past number of years, several years. I'm checking on it. Now I'm going to get some more information from it for you. This is just for your information, because when it may come back to you, and so you know something about that.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Ms. Cole. I got one more item on the chairman's report. I've been brought to my attention that our courtroom should be ready at the next drainage board meeting, the new courtroom in Gonzales, and just making sure everyone's here wanting to move to the new courtroom. So make plans. We making plans. Hey, I had one person that said she would like to stay here. Real convenient to her.
On that issue, that I think we had the director of the IS guru back there. We're going to have to put together training classes too. I don't get to put anything together yet, but we're going to definitely have to have a training class for the administration and for the council members of all the technical apparatus that's over there.
So I would recommend.
So we're trying to schedule something over the next week or so for that.
Okay.
Get everybody together.
Put my veto button in there too. Right?
It's big. It's one of those big rounds.
Okay, so make plans to meet at the new court chambers next month. We're gonna move on to new business. Any new business?
Yeah. Question on Bill. Have we received any money from FEMA for Hurricane Katrina or Rita?
Not reimbursement.
We have not gotten any reimbursement.
Not that I know of. I have to get that answer from finance, but not that I know of.
We'll find that out Thursday night at finance.
Okay. All right.
There.
One of the things is, let business take care of it. One go home, go home. You should be getting a proposal from coming from strategic planning on proposal for a master drainage plan, and I'd like to hear from Mr. Shanksnyder as far as getting us going to speed, because this is something that I think we want to move on pretty quick. I mean, if you can share with the board what we want to do, because this major drainage plan is going to involve Burt Pines here, so it's got to kind of mesh together.
Well, I think that's what you're referring to, the drainage ordinance.
Well, the drainage ordinance.
Which ties into the drainage plan.
Well, they got master drainage plan, but it's master drainage ordinance.
It's the drainage ordinance that's going through the city plan.
So
That is a master drainage plan, but it's by ordinance that we enacted it, and it's in order to establish a unified development code, which means simply, right now, the only drainage regulations we have in this parish is on subdivisions, basically. And what this ordinance will do is help implement it across the board for single-family housing, developments, retail, everything that's going to be involved in our drainage, so that everybody that has an effect on drainage will have a plan that they will follow. And this is something that is needed. It's been updated. We have a proposed ordinance right now. We have been looking over it with the staff and with engineers. It has gotten to the point where we are referring it to, we have decided to refer it to planning and zoning, because they take usually the brunt of these day-to-day issues, and so that they can have a public hearing. All of the engineers, developers, homeowners, and everything can take a look at it. They will be sending it back to strategic planning with recommendations. We will address it again, and then we will make recommendations to the full council from there. So I think it has been sent to everyone. In fact, I'm sure it is. In draft form, please take a look at it. If you have any questions or anything, get back with us. Michael Sonshi and DPW has been involved in it, so your questions will be directed to them. And we hope to act on it as quickly as possible.
The only question, did we send this to URS for them to take a look at?
I thought they did, but we will make sure.
Okay, all right. Let's make sure they get a copy.
We'll make sure you get it.
Okay.
New business. Any more new business? Let's go into old business. I got one gentleman in the audience that's wanting to speak on old business, Mr. Jeff Olendar. Come on up to the mic. And
I'd like to thank you all for the opportunity to speak. I've got some pictures I'd like to hand out around the table here.
Sure. Start on that corner right there.
First set of pictures that's going around was a rainy event, not a big event, happened in 2004 in May. It was about just shy of 3 inches of rain. And as you can see, that ditch down in that street there just couldn't handle that little amount of rain. The problem was, I found out, was a blockage on the Chateau Galvez ditch, which I'd like to thank Mr. Hillsbeck for helping me get the ball rolling on getting this ditch cleaned out. And understand it's a right-of-way problem with the owner of the property that ditch runs through. And I really think it's a really big problem with this right-of-way issue. I mean, we might can get this right-of-way for this time, but we really need to work on this landowner for future stuff too. We're going to have to go through all this to keep this cleaned out. Some of this is reinforcing Mr. Epps was talking about with Henderson Bayou. The Chateau Galvez ditch does eventually drain into Henderson Bayou. And I know there's been a lot of money probably spent on studies and this and that, and it's not big enough. All right, it's just not big enough, this Chateau Galvez ditch. Information I just gave is free. I'm not charged for it. Of course, if you want to pay for that information, I'll donate it back to the drainage to fix it. But I really think, and I know there's been a lot of talk. I've been hearing about pumps on Henderson Bayou and starting to work, on this area and all that. The pumps will help. There's no doubt about that. The pumps will help. But we got to get the water down to it. We got to get all this cleaned out. We got to get it big enough to handle all this water. And the proof about that is, look at Black Bite. It's got pumps. But it flooded up on my end down at Abbey James. To me, the pumps didn't help that part of the parish at all. So that really needs to be done. And also I heard talk about this Laurel Ridge project and funding money over there and this and all that kind of stuff. But I just want to remind everybody, I pay taxes. I pay drainage taxes, the property taxes and all that. In fact, my house got 4 inches of water in it. That's those next set of pictures you see. I had 4 inches of water. There was 2 feet of water on the driveway. And I just want to remind everybody that I just pay taxes. I'd like this situation fixed. I'll do what we can to get it fixed. In fact, all the materials I bought and paid to repair my house, most everything come from Ascension Parish. Repair lumber, I bought a lot of stuff from there. I bought a lot of stuff from Ascension Door. All tax money going back into the parish. So I can say I paid my fair share of stuff in the parish. But the last thing I want to say about that is that, and I understand Laurel Ridge, I understand what you're trying to do out there, but to me, I don't think we can really try to fix what may happen. I think we need to work on fixing what is happening now. I do know there's a lot of concerns about what may happen if these floodplains go together and this stuff, but I can tell you what's happening now. I really think we need to work on that. This Henderson Bayou, Ms. Hildebrandt's helped me a lot, and frankly, I don't know if my councilman's really care about it, to be honest with you, because I haven't heard him speak on anything on Henderson Bayou. And I watched some of these drainage board meetings on TV, and I haven't heard him say anything. But I think we need to, I'm just trying to reinforce with Mr. Epps this report, that we do have a big problem, fix it, prove it. And I just thank y'all for giving me this opportunity to speak, voice my opinion. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Bill, if you come up and just, is this the same area? I'm going to talk to the owner of the property because we don't have a parish right away.
We don't have a sign right away on the property. The landowner is restricting us from access to that ditch to clean it.
It's really the same place I'm going to see.
Exactly the same place.
I'm going there in the next day.
And since we don't have a servitude on it, in most cases like this, it becomes a battle between landowners. If in fact that landowner is causing a restriction or there's a restriction, he's not allowed us to go in there and fix it. He has a liability to damages caused by that site. So a lot of times it comes down to a lawsuit between landowners to get something to work from somebody that does it.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that's the same one.
Bill, doesn't all this drain in the Henderson Bayou Basin?
Yeah.
Crosses over. And that's where we redirected the money. A lot of people keep saying that we redirected the money in the wrong place, but it's still, we redirected the funds towards the Henderson Bayou Basin. It's Laurel Ridge levy, but it's the Bayou Henderson Basin also. And I just wanted to, make that point because a lot of people are misled by that.
Yeah, that's good.
Mr. Shakes now.
On the old business, I just wanted to address people and thank DPW for about a couple of years now. We've been investigating and checking into the drainage situation in and around Sorrento, and it's currently being addressed. We found after a lot of investigation that a lot of the cross canals were having some serious drainage problems, and some of them were misdirected. They're going around areas and through woods and things, and areas that has not been proven to not been cleaned out in the past 25 years. So DPW is systematically going through and cleaning these canals to get the water. The big problem we've had is that water is not getting to the pumping station. That is all being addressed right now, so we ask people that we're going across their property with ditches to bear with us, because the drainage is going to be vastly improved as we're continuing on out along the airline highway for the areas in Brittany. And so the drainage improvements is going to go all the way up to even to Hutchinson Road. Some people are going to be improved by the water that gets out of there and crosses the railroad track, so going into Bayou Francois and Conway. So just want to let people know that it's been a long time to take to do this, but systematically trying to do it and get engineering and right away and everything has taken a great deal of time, and now we're starting to see the effects of it. I appreciate the continued effort.
Mr. Hillis,
Yeah, I got an old business item. I know it's already long tonight, and I'm trying to get through this as quick as I can. I have two items of old business. Okay. This is about the Marvin Grove Pump Station evaluation report that URS gave last drainage board meeting. I had a chance to sit down and digest it and go through it. And I've got, I'm kind of at that point, I don't agree with some of the findings on the report. After reading the URS report of Marvin Grove Pump Station dated January 9, 2005, the following should be noted. The statement was made that the pumping station was overburdened during Hurricane Rita event. The attachment to their report indicates, Exhibit C indicates that the inside elevation never rose to over 2 feet. In fact, it never got back to 2 feet. It was stable at 1.9 feet. That coincides with the data on the USGS survey website for this gauging station. Even at elevation 2 feet, the water level is still within the banks of the canals and levees. There was no explanation as to why they termed the pumps overburdened, and I think they were really overreaching when they said this, because the facts kind of suggest otherwise. URS referenced the following report regarding the design criteria of the initial 2 pumping stations that were later consolidated into one. The following report suggests that the initial 2 pumping stations were to be designed for a 5-year, 7.5-inch, 24-hour rainfall event. URS states that the consolidation included an extra pump as a spare and implies that the consolidated pumping station was designed for a 5-year storm event. In fact, the report does not address the design assumptions for the consolidated pumping station. And I'm assuming that URS deduced that the new consolidated station was designed for a 5-year storm and the 5th pump was a spare. If I haven't been able to find that in any of the original plan or in the documents. It is a reasonable assumption, but it's not based on any evidence, facts, or reports. Given the size of the consolidated drainage basin sump, it is certainly reasonable that the relocated consolidated pumping station could have been designed to accommodate a 10-year event. URS failed to mention in their report that the pumping stations were designed to allow the inside water drainage, the inside water surface, to rise to an elevation of +5 MSL, or mean sea level, +5. That was in the Prescott pilot plan. That design criteria was clearly stated in the pilot report. Had URS included that parameter in their report, they could not have made the statement that the pumping station was overwhelmed or overburdened when the inside elevation didn't even reach 2 feet. URS also made an unrelated engineering argument that the pumping station rated capacity should be reduced by 20%. A typical engineering design would be based on the expected conditions of the system. The following report clearly stated they expected discharge side water surface would be at 5.0 feet during a rainfall event. URS reported that the elevation in the discharge waters reached 4 to 5 feet during Rita. The reported conditions during the Rita event were nearly identical to that of the anticipated in the design, and therefore there is no basis for discounting the pumping system capacity. Also, the URS report was not sealed by an engineer as required by law. Conclusion: the report and accompanying data suggest that the pump station can handle, I think, at least a 10-year event, possibly more. URS stated the Hurricane Rita far exceeded a 5-year event, and the pumping station maintained a very low level in the canal. Based on their report, the pumping station can handle significantly more flow. The upper reaches of the major drainage ways can be improved to reduce flooding in the northern parts of the parish, and if the pumping system is operated as designed, it can comfortably accommodate any additional flow from these improvements. Unfortunately, the improvements to the upper reaches of the canal were canceled due to action of this board in June. However, I'll go ahead and clarify, we are moving forward and coming back and going to do some additional dredging work or drainage work that was brought out tonight in the meeting. So, I'm glad we're addressing those problems because there is a continual flooding problem, especially in the areas north of Gonzales, which include the Pleasant, Dustin, Dive, and Prairie. The thing I like to point out about this, I got a quick little slide presentation to go through. It won't take long. Is I want to remind everyone our core permit will expire in August 2006. Allows us to dredge, clean these canals and all out. I think maybe we need to look at, we begin the process now, we'll see about getting that permit extended, because we may need to do some additional work down the road. Did you get that form? Back up. Oh, we got it. Yeah, there you go. The excerpt from the 82 pilot master drainage plan, as I stated earlier, major pumping station plan at the end of Black Bayou and Spring Canal. Designated pumping station number 1, second major pumping station at the end of Bayou Francois, and New River, station number 2. This was what was in the original plan. These two pumping stations would have a pumping capacity capable of handling stormwater in excess of normal stream flow of 7.5 inches of rainfall over a 24-hour period, designated a 5-year storm. Okay. The design was changed and the pump capacity was improved. The two planned pump stations with 2 pumps each for a total of 4 pumps were consolidated, and a 5th pump was added. After consolidation, a new site was designated with a new design for the 5 pumps in Marlboro. The station was constructed at the junction of Severio Canal and New River Canal. Not advancing enough. Can you slide it over just a little bit? That's the whole thing. All right, go ahead. Okay, in that follow plan, on the same page, it pointed out in the URS report about talks about the 7.5 inch rainfall in 24 hours being a 5-year flood event. It says during times of high tide and late waterfall and heavy rainfall upstream, the floodgates will be closed and the pumps will evacuate the stormwater to maintain a water level of a maximum of +5 MSL inside the drainage area. Again, I want to point out we're not even at 2. Okay, next. All right, that is the water gauge on the inside of the drainage area. And if you could scroll down, which I thought we could do tonight, I'd show you in that particular slide, normally the water's around 1 feet.
That's the bottom.
Pardon? That's the bottom, okay. However, the levee system was built in order for the water to collect up to 5+ feet. Okay? Next slide. I bring this out during an October and November drainage board meeting. It says that the because the pumps at the station had reached maximum capacity. It would have done no good to continue with the dredging plan. Had we dredged, we would have put too much water on the pump station. It would have been more water than the station could handle. Well, I disagree with that. There was various quotes made about the pump station, how many pumps were running. One was we had 5 pumps running 12 hours. Next one was we had maybe 5 pumps running 8 hours. I know for a fact when I went down and looked, we had no entries on the 24th, which was the day of the storm. But the previous day, it showed that there were 3 pumps running. And then, of course, Councilwoman Fontenot made the statement that she called the pump station. I'm sure she was kind of like me. I got out and got to driving around observing the flood in my area, and I'm sure that's what she was doing as a council member. And she even stated that they had to start cutting back on the pumps because they weren't getting enough water and they were drawing the water down too far. Additional information on the pump station. Operator was quoted in the paper, and it's kind of hard to read in red. The source was the Advocate. Said all the pumps were running full blast in the storm, saw it happen, doesn't care what effect it might have on the drainage board. I don't care one way or the other, but I know what I did, and it's that simple. Mr. White said. Because I did a little checking, back up. I did a little checking. Mr. White's shift started at 7 p.m. on Friday. His shift ended at 7 a.m. on Saturday. So he wasn't there to verify how many pumps were running throughout the day. This is the USGS monitoring station that's affixed to the inside drainage area of the Marvin Brook pump station, and this is the monitoring station that the federal government. Of course, we talked tonight a little bit about funding, sharing on the cost of continuing this program. Next slide. Can you blow that up just a little bit?
That's it.
That's it.
I can zoom in on the slide that's there. That starts off.
I got a better slide. I think people might see. This might be a little easier to see. But this is the USGS station. It's station 07380228 New River Canal near Sorrento. This particular point is August 1st. This line is September 1st, October 1st, November 1st, December 1st. On this particular graph, you've got 3 readings of the water elevation. You've got the dark blue line, which is the daily maximum elevation. You've got the light blue line, which is the daily minimum elevation. And then you've got the daily mean elevation, which is the green line. Well, this was to orientate you to it. Let me get Anyway, if you look at the first chart of the section from August to September, that's 30 days from August 1st to September 1st. And this was the Hurricane Katrina event. This is where the pump station pumped the water down in anticipation. This is where the maximum water level got up to 2.5 feet during Katrina. The rest of the parish didn't get a whole lot of rain, but some of the parish got some. This next 30 days, this is the Rita event. This is where the pump station operators started pumping the water down in anticipation of Rita. This is where it came back up. And this is the max water level for that day. The light blue line is the minimum water level for that day, which we got it down almost to 0. So I question the fact that the pumps are overburdened. Go to one other quick slide. This was definitely hard to read. Can you read that? Can you pick that up? This again is the pump station. Okay. This shows we got a little spike right here, and then the water started dropping. However, the other sites, the water is still climbing. Guys, that tells me that we got major restrictions upstream, and I think we need to do some serious cleaning out, which tonight it did come out that that's going to take place. I'm very satisfied about that. Next slide. Okay, I want to play this. This is Mrs. Fontenot, and both at the
For the benefit of my people that's in my district. When I voted to redirect this money, it was because of this plan. I got this plan when I first got elected, and I began reading the plan. I take drainage serious in Ascension Parish. They've asked us not to be territorial or police jurors, but to be councilmen for the whole parish. That's where I'm going, and that's what I try to do. Two things were said tonight that I need to clear up. The northern part of the parish, where my people are, were not affected by any kind of redirection at all. This water drains into Manchac. It doesn't go to our pumping station. The other part of my area that did get flooded, the water does go to the pumping station, but it couldn't get there because of debris. That has been taken care of. We talked about that earlier tonight. I complimented Mr. Root and his staff for cleaning out the Eugene Port that caused a lot of major flooding in Prairie Oaks and Silverstone and some of these other areas that were in my district. Our DPW is working on those problems. They've made that a priority, and they're working on it. Had that water gotten to the pumping station, it would have helped a whole lot. It couldn't get to the pumping station, and the pumping station people informed me that they had to start cutting the pumps off because they couldn't get enough water down, and they were drawing it down too far. The reason the water wasn't getting down there from my area was because it just couldn't get through. It had nothing to do. If the water had gotten through, our pumps would have been working and everything would have been fine. That's the
All right. So again, I question about the pumps being overburdened and reaching max capacity. I agree with what Councilwoman Fontenot said, or Drainage Board Member Fontenot said. No doubt, I think there was some flow restrictions, debris that was blocking some of the water. However, tonight it comes out, we're going to go ahead and we're going to start cleaning Grand Duty now, which I'm very happy about. But she stated, why were the operators cutting off the pumps? We've got 5 other bayous and canals still flowing to the pump station. There was other drainage water that was still flowing to the pump station while they were cutting them back. Black Bayou, Bayou Narcisse, Severio Canal, New River, and Bayou Francois. Okay, next slide. This is an exterior view of the discharge side of the pump station. If you notice that pipe running across the openings there, that's a deflector. And that's to send the water down because the water comes out in such force, it was eroding the canal bank on the opposite side. If you look at that particular slide, that water elevation is at 1 feet. You got some 4 to 5 feet that the water can rise before the discharge is effective, before there's any possible reduction, or I think there's a URF report talked about reduction due to pressure from the existing water. Next slide. Again, I thought I was going to be able to drop it all the way down. If I could scroll down on this particular slide, I can do it on my computer. I guess we can't do it on this. It would show the water at 1 feet. Okay, next slide. There's a picture of the pump station actually discharging. All 5 pumps are running. Give you some idea about how the water can get up and it's not affected by the high tide level on the discharge side. Okay, next slide. And there's an existing shot of the water gauge, the levee or canal bank on the discharge side, showing that, hey, we're okay on the discharge side, 5 feet as well. Actually, a little higher than 5. Next slide. That's a picture of the station. Kind of gives you a visual of the canal banks leading up to it. On on both sides. This is coming from New River from the west to east. Next slide. I think the point needs to be considered is the question of dredging will stop and benefits District 4, 8, 10, 11, represented by Council Members Fontenot, Valentine, McCollum, and Byerder, include those areas, Duplessis, Dutchtown, Geisner, Gonzales, and Prairieville. It come out that this was, I think my approach was territorial or even been called police jury politics, but I just want to remind everyone that I was pointing out other people's districts that we need to do something. And again, I'm glad it's come out tonight that we are moving forward and we are going to address some of these problems. Narcisse, Grand Goudin, definitely along with Black Bayou and Muddy Creek needs attention. I'm a little bit concerned, though, if we do anything to Grand Goudin, because it's my understanding, and Mark, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the mayor was quite emphatic about if we move any dirt north of him, that he's going to have a problem with that. So we might need to get in and do some negotiating and before we approach that. Next slide. So anyway, that's where I stand. I disagree with the report. I've read through it. I am not an engineer. However, I also, besides many hats I wear, I was a lieutenant colonel in the Army Guard, branch engineer also for many years. I've been a part of building roads and levees, drainage projects all over the state, in Central America, and also the UK. So I kind of disagree with what I pointed out tonight about the report. Thank you.
Let's Bill that. Mr. Byerder.
Bill, Mike Paterno. We need a little explanation here. I mean, somebody's lining in from council.
I disagree.
Oh, no, I mean, we're accusing him. And also, I mean, I have a feeling it may be the council member line, because for several months we've been talking about not canceling the dredging, redirecting it to in-house to save a few dollars, to help out on Henderson Bayou flood station, flood basin. We've never stopped it. We've been talking about it for 4 or 5 months. That's why Mr. Root came tonight with the proposal to rent or lease. He's been looking into getting some equipment. Where did this come from that we stopped it? Now, all of a sudden, you're so glad we're talking about it tonight. We've been talking about it for 4 or 5 months. You must have fell asleep, I guess. You didn't get enough coffee or something. But I mean, this just didn't happen tonight, Mr. Jones. We've been talking about this. Now, I'd like to see if the consultant and Mr. Root can address some of this. I mean, we've got employees line, we've got consultants line, we've got DPW line, everybody's line as far as this council member is concerned.
Mr. Mike, if you want.
Employees, parish, everybody's line.
Mr. Burns, all respect, if these individuals were like 30 days to absorb.
I don't think they need 30 days, Mr. Salvo.
That's up to them. That's fine. Go with it.
No, I just want to say a few words. Certainly, I respect Mr. Hellenbeck ability to disagree. Everybody has an opinion about it. Certainly, I think the point of the report, we went through elevations, went through tenure, went through 5 points versus 4 points, and actually, we should probably have a spare on most of the stations. The point of the matter is that whether it's elevation 2 or elevation 5, the pumps were just holding their own. They were able to take that. And I agree with you 100%. In all your charts, you can see how much water is trapped upstream. And we can see it's a no-brainer that was a 10-year event. I don't think anybody disagrees with that. I think it is a stretch to say that the station, because it had an additional pump, even though it's further downstream, that it can handle a 10-year event. The point of the report, the gist of the report, and what the conclusion of the report was, is that you had a plan that is 26 years old. You had evidence where you obviously had a 10-year event. You had a station that was designed for a 5-year event. You had a station with all pumps running that held the elevation, whether it was 5 or whether it was 2, it just held the elevation. It was becoming overburdened. With that information, our conclusion, our recommendation is that you have a 26-year-old plan. And I think Mr. Epson, he said it eloquently, that the additional runoff from the commercial businesses, from the roads, most of our systems now are designed for 10-year events. And we're not a rural parish like we used to be back when the report was initially done. And a recommendation and a requirement is that this is something we need to revisit. Hence, you're going forward, you're looking at updating those major streams going to the station to see if we could up the capacity of the station, if in fact we do everything we need to do that it's able to handle it, and look at the possibility of instead of a 5-year, looking at a 10-year and what that would take downstream. That was the gist of the entire report, was that we have to look at something that's over 26 years old. So, that's it.
The only thing that I want to say is the fact that DPW did our job. We monitored what was going on, and we saw a red flag go up. We voiced our concern of the possibility of something happening. The board decided to get verification of that opinion from URS. They came back with exactly the same concerns we had, which is concerns, not a statement of fact, concerns. And again, that's why the board is going forward with the modeling of this basin to really determine now actually what would happen under the different events and what would happen not only in the upper portions of the parish but also at the pumping station. That's the whole purpose of this contract, to come back and tell the board. And that's so again, we performed our job the way we were mandated to do. It's time now for the experts to come back and say what truly is possible and what we should do.
Mr. Rubin, if you might, please. Is it correct to say that we had 5 pumps running in this episode that we were questioning?
I went down there on 2 occasions and they were running.
Is it correct to say, I think it was a substantial number of hours, approximately how long?
According to the information that I received from my workers and from the operations log that they maintain during an event, which is different from a maintenance log, it's documented there that they ran about 18 hours. I mean, 30 some odd hours.
31 hours. Is what
again, this is from information from my employees, all of them, and from the log maintained for an event, which is only maintained for an event. And again, that's the only thing I can go by.
And I understand that during that time period, we were simply, as Mr. Turner was saying, we were simply maintaining the level. We were not reducing the level with all 5 pumps being run for 31 hours until toward the end we started reducing it.
Standard
Am I correct?
Yes, you are. Standard operating policy is that we always rotate the pumps, less than 5 pumps, to maintain the integrity of the pumps.
And that was my next thing. It was designed to have 4 pumps working to handle a flooding condition and have 1 in reserve, because at any point in time 1 could go out and we need to have that. Am I correct on that?
You're correct. And when we use all 5 pumps, in normal cases, we start bringing the elevation down, we'll bring it down to about a 1 or 2, and then we'll rotate back to 3 or 2 or 4 pumps until it gets up to a high elevation, and we'll keep rotating like that and keep the elevation within a range.
Right. And with 5 pumps, if we reduce it, if 1 of them would have broken, let's say 2 hours into the event, and we reduce the capacity by 20%, which brings it down to 4 pumps, there's 20% capacity reduction. How much, in your opinion, Mr. Paterno, you may have to answer this, could we have kept up with the rainfall event, or would we have been inundated at that point?
Well, obviously with 5 pumps
20%.
running, you were maintaining level. If you go 4 pumps, then you would decrease that ability, certainly. And the gist of the report, again, is the fact that we have a 26-year-old plan. And we've got things set aside throughout the parish at 10 years. We do have some subdivisions. We're trying to do a 0 increase in flow. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad, because We might reduce that peak if we actually increase the volume, and you may wind up screwing the peak up downstream because of the increased volume of flow. You've only been doing that probably, on my understanding, for about the last 5 years. All your highways, all your roadways were 10-year design. You had a large event, and I agree with Mr. Hellenbeck's graph. You had a lot of peaks and water up there that wasn't getting down. And if you have a 10-year event, what happens? We don't know. We have a 26-year-old study. It was a great study. Mr. Prescott left did a heck of a job, but we're more urbanized. We have some issues, and we need to go back and look at the whole system.
Well, and that's where I'm getting at. If we have this same peak event with the increase in dredging that we have, and we lose a pump, we're not going to be able to maintain that. And yes, we did keep it within the banks, thank goodness. And if we reduce the capacity by 20%, which is what one pump less will do, that's a 20% increase or decrease in pumping capacity. It will be a tremendous problem in that area to have the same type of event we had recently. And so, a lot of problems that it hit all at one time. That's why the water went up so high in one area, regardless. So, I'm very well satisfied that the pumping capacity has been reached on that conclusion, and that we definitely need to look for added capacity in some way, shape, or form, so that we can continue to dredge and improve drainage in the rest of the parish. So I think we need to realize that we have to have pumping capacity that is less than 100% to maintain flow. And so I appreciate that.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, get Jerry, because I may have to respond to what he says.
I'm sure you will. Sad day. It's a sad day to bring this back up again. Mr. Hillenbeck, you must have some deep problem to continuously attempt to mislead the people of this parish in the direction and the operation that's been going on with DPW and the drainage board. Still, even tonight, you still trying to mislead. You got a man that spoke up here, and it disturbed me. A few things you said disturbed me, because I can tell that you've been misled. White Bayou never was taken off the list to be dredged. You go back at the minutes of the meeting, 1 month before Mr. Hillenbeck threw up some hogwash presentation, and I called it, well, that night I called it a column because it doesn't hold water. I went back and I reviewed his presentation. I pulled up facts. I pulled up minutes of the meeting, and it's exactly what I said. The presentation back then didn't hold water, and I'm calling it hogwash tonight because he's misled and leading the people by giving half truths to no truth. Now, why he continues to bring this up, I don't know. Couldn't take it. Never was stopped. Like Bayou, we continuously move forward, trying to get it going and continue upstream. We did put a halt going through Bayou Francois because the cost benefit wasn't there, and that was determined not by Jerry Salvor or another council member of the board member. It comes from our team, our engineering team, which was BCG, Glenn Cheyenne, and the department. That's how it came up to saying that it wasn't cost beneficial. That's why it was needed to be pulled at the time, for the time being, and started addressing some other major parts of the parish that has it received any benefits from your tax dollars? So far as some of this, I see up here tonight, it's wrong. I mean, my next question, real quick, two more. Mr. President, how many pumps were running during Hurricane Rita?
When I went out to the pumping station, there was 5 pumps running. Now, I think one of the problems that we deal with, and Mitch and I have met with several people the last week or so, Jerry, the water actually started, if you think of looking at the pumping station, driving to it, the water started coming back over the road, flowing from east to west, which means we were starting to recycle some water. Okay? That water was flowing east to west or west to east, whatever direction.
Hold on, Mr. Bolton. So, please be careful. Don't say we're recycling water.
Well, I mean, we have water.
That's not true.
It's outside the levee. It's outside the levee. It has nothing to do with it.
Now, I heard us also say something about, I've been told by the people who were involved with this project, and I don't think any of us were, that the reason they went to 5 pumps is just simply the bids came in less than they had anticipated for the 4, and they decided to spend extra money on the 5th pump. So, now that's from the horse's mouth, like Mr. Quinmar and some of those people, that's what happened. The construction prices went down, bids came in lower than estimate, and they had enough money left over for the 5th pump. Now, was it designed for a substitute or what? But just they could get 5 pumps for what they thought they were going to get 4 for, so they did that. So I went out there, there was 5 pumps running. Now, I didn't stay out there 36 hours. I was all over the parish, but I stayed at that I don't know how many times now since Hurricane Rita.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Next thing I got is we heard Mr. Hillenbeck say that he was not an engineer. My question to Mr. Hillenbeck, where are you getting your expert professional information from to present to the board? If you're willing to share that with us.
Gary, I'll stand by the facts that we presented. Just as Mr. Bernhardo said, he had no problem with what I presented.
Excuse me, I got another point, Mr. Chairman. Do you have any more questions for the parish president?
What I said was I agree that with your graphs, you show all the water in the upper region. And with the 10-year event and the station designed for 5, I can't make the stretch saying you got an extra pump, which really should be rotated. I agree with the way they operate. And when they got desperate, they run all 5 pumps to try and keep it level. Whether it's at 5, whether it's 2, keep it level. And the fact that with the 10-year event and a pump size of 5 or thereabouts and more water, we could be in trouble. Now, if it's a 5-year event and 5-year reach, then yeah. Now, again, the gist of the whole thing is that we don't know. Is that you mean that's a shot in the dark? 5 pumps could be up to a 10-year event. I disagree with that. But the fact of the matter is that there are a lot of unknowns in the parish. They did an excellent job in the report, and it's 26 years old, and it's time to look at it. That's the point.
No, Mr. Hillenbeck, I'd like to know if you are getting some assistance from a professional engineer to help you put this your last 2 presentations together.
No, indeed.
No, indeed?
I read the report. It's all in the report.
It's going boy, too, if you're looking for no expert. I just told you I'm not an engineer. I'm just an opinion. See, with waste everybody's time like this.
Let me respond first to what Councilman Berger said. He said we didn't stop anything. Yeah, we did. We stopped dredging Bayou Francois, Bougainville. We stopped cleaning out New River. We had stopped Grand Goudin, backed off until tonight. It came out earlier. I'm glad it did because it's funny. It was debris before, but now we're going to go clean out. We're going to go over and clean the ditches out. What Mr. Scheck said about the pumps holding the water at 2 feet, I don't think we're not recognizing the fact that the levees and the sump itself, the drainage area, and it says it in the report, I'm not making that up. It says it allows the water to collect and rise up to 5 feet, but guess what? The water's only getting up to 1.9. We've got 3 feet of capacity. How many millions of gallons is that? Okay. Not that I want to see the water get to 5 feet, because if it does, probably City Gonzales is under. But there's no consideration being given to the salt or to the drainage basin. Let me finish, Mr. Reed. By the way, I did email Mr. Turner out of courtesy to him. I told him I disagreed with his report. Ms. Fontenot said herself, she said it in the November meeting. It's in the November minutes right here. Ms. Fontenot stated she was informed. She called the pump station. Pumps were cut out because guess what, guys? There wasn't any water. You know. Then she says it on the tape. Are we not recognizing the tape? She clearly said they cut the pumps back. I think that was sometime that morning, because guess what? We've got so many restrictions upstream, the water is not getting there. Some of it has been addressed tonight. Grand Gooding, we're going to do that. Black Bayou, Bayou North Seas. Now, Jerry, as far as misleading the people, I wasn't going to do this, but I think I'm going to go ahead and do it now. I want you to put Ascension Drainage Funding Priorities Part 2 back on the agenda for the March meeting.
Oh, this wasn't it?
No, this wasn't it. No, because we're going to straighten out some of this business about this memo you keep referring to. So I'd like that on the agenda for the next meeting, and I'll come with another PowerPoint. And hopefully it'll be up in the agenda, and we won't be so rushed. Because I apologize for being long tonight. It's already a long meeting, but I brought that up on the old business, and that was old business.
And if I may, just one clarification. Our levee system, if we get up to around 5 or over, we do have flooding, and that's in the Samar area. Everything builds up relative to that elevation. So at the pumping station and along the where the levees are actually at, we're okay, but we do experience flooding in AC and other areas of Samar when the elevation gets up 5 and over. So we do have problems.
Yeah, and I don't want us to get to that point, Bill.
That's it, we never could.
But I don't think we're recognizing the fact we got plenty of
well, again, when we get to that area, some people are flooded in San That's the fact. And the other thing is, really quickly, is the fact that with the exception of going through, with the dredging of the FOLET plan, and Deb, you can correct me if I'm wrong, with the exception of going through Gonzales, we're compliant with the FOLET plan. We did all the projects in the program as per the pumping station. We've done all the programs. They say stop where we're at right now, continue on with your own forces to maintain, clean the rest of it. They don't have in there dredging all the way up. And that the FOLET plan is say stop where we're at right now and clean the rest with your own forces. And that's what we're doing. We maintain, it was mandated for us to do that, and that's what we're doing. So.
I'd like to say one thing. Bill, I want to commend you and Mr. Allen Allred, a couple of guys at the pumping station. I think y'all did everything y'all possibly could do, and I want to commend y'all on it. Y'all saved a lot of people from flooding. City Gonzales, a lot of the Santa Monica area, some of the upstreams, you know, so I just want to commend y'all. I think y'all did whatever y'all possibly could do with what y'all had, and I want to appreciate all y'all guys.
That I need to get before I get retired.
I got one more. Just to show the public, because this is what Mr. Hillenbeck is wanting to do. He's going to bring it to you, the public, to mislead you. There's two things that he just said that's wrong. One, he said we stopped the dredging in New River. That's wrong. There ain't no dredging going on in New River. That just goes to show you how little he knows about the drainage. Number two, he wants to bring up and show a clip of a previous meeting on Miss Fontenot, something that he enjoys doing. Bringing our names into the picture, which I've been on board for going on 12 years now. I have been attacked more in my first 9 years as I have in the last 2 years by Mr. Hillenbeck. But he gets a thrill out of that, I guess. But what he's trying to mislead the public is, what Ms. Fontenot was trying to say is not dredging, cleaning the ditches so the water will flow appropriately. You know, Mr. Hillenbeck wants to make it sound like we're going to dredge up there. No, we're not talking about dredge. We're talking about just clearing trees that's out of ditches. And that's what Ms. Fontenot was alluding to. But he wants to mislead you into thinking something else. That's all I got on that.
I got some old business I have to take care of, and I apologize for it. One thing I mentioned before, NRCS, the participation with them in the clearing of selected values. I need a resolution from the board saying that you are willing to participate with a 75% match.
So moved. Got a motion by Mr. Shakespeare.
What's the estimated 25?
Second by Mr.
Well, we don't have any idea.
Savoy. Question, Mr. Barker.
I asked if we don't have any idea.
Well,
Is what Mr. Reeves said. I just don't want to do something.
well, I can explain it.
$20 million.
Again, I can explain it. The court, usually NRCS don't ask for any matching funds, but because of so many people competing for this, that they put the requirement, they went around asking all the parishes who will or has the money to participate. So automatically you say, I don't have the money or any money to participate, they just go into the ones that say we can participate. Then that's the only one that they're going to select for the first round of funding. So we don't want to lose out by not saying, yeah, you come back to us, let's talk about it, but we're able to participate 25%. It's not tying us into having to do it. It's just you're willing to do it if everything else, all else is equal. And so I need to send him that letter.
We got a motion by Mr. Shakespeare, second by Mr. Savoy. Any objection? So moved.
This is another item real quick, is that we have a cost share situation. We're doing a lot of work in Sorrento. We're cleaning out the ditches from Drifting Road, 2 or 3 locations going to Sorrento Lumber Company. At that end. The thing is, we need to change the covers under the driveway at Sorrento Lumber, going into the cross drain, going under Airline Highway. That's all we need to do to get that drainage on out of there. Because that's the bottleneck is at Airline Highway, and we need, the cost of doing that is about $20,000 to replace those box covers. Now, Sorrento Lumber Company came back and said, what if we do go it on an angle, go directly into the box covers, because we have to make 290s to go into them, go at an angle, and I'll pay, still pay just your half, or just what you were going to pay for the driveway. I'll pay whatever else it is. Come to find out it's about a half and half. It's about 200 feet, where if we just do the driveway, it's 100 feet. He said, well, you're going to spend the same amount of money. I'll put the same amount, $20,000 with it, and we'll go diagonal across, and then he can use his land on the other side. We're going to spend the money either way, $20,000.
And the reason I think it's important for the parish, if you go out there and you take a look at it, I've brought a number of people out there that's all read and all of them, it gives us a straight shot straight through to the train trestle, that opening there. If we do it the other way, it goes at a 90, which has been the problem, that's been the bottleneck, and this drains all of Brittany, all of the area coming through in back of Sorrento there. And this is what we've been trying to get, and we've got cooperation now from Sorrento Lumber on this, and it is, it's a real good deal for us that we can go across the property instead of going at an angle, which has been our problem all along. We've been talking about putting 2 big 4 by 5 foot culverts, box culverts, which is very much needed. We have 5 box culverts under the Airline Highway that we're draining into. It should be appropriately the same amount.
Phil, isn't this also draining like off of Kluwat Road, in the back section of Kluwat Road? Hodgson Road is basically one of them.
Well, everything from
It's been a major
portion
problem.
of Brittany Road, all of Brittany Road comes to that location there. And again, we negotiate with them. We're not willing to spend any more than what we would have spent, what he could spend anyway if we just replaced the covers under the driveway.
I'll second Mr. Shakespeare's motion.
I got a motion by Mr. Shakespeare, second by Mr. McConnell. Any discussion? Any objection? So moved.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Mr. Parish, second by Mr. McConnell.